What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty, and welcome to another amazing video. You can follow me on Patreon for exclusive stories.
8GV. Chapter 201 Changes brought about by the Illuminati. Now the whole world is amazed. On the island of the gods, Morgans is laughing. The world government has never thought of blocking the upside-down mountain. If you don't talk about it elsewhere, at least the number of pirates in the Grand Line will be greatly reduced. The canals on the upside-down hill aren't the only access to the Grand Line from all over the world. It is also possible to directly cross the calm belt that separates the Grand Line and the Four Seas, so as to realize the round trip between two different sea areas. But for most people, crossing the calm belt is simply impossible. They still can only walk upside-down mountain honestly. So of course, as long as the upside-down mountain is blocked, the pirates who want to go to the Grand Line from all over the world will be stopped at least 90% of the time. After all, this is really not a difficult task. The Marine or world government only needs to build a fortress called 557 in Twin Gorges, and send a vice admiral from naval headquarters to station there. How should pirates from all over the world contend with him? In this way, even if the pirates in the Grand Line cannot be completely wiped out, at least the number of raging pirates can be greatly reduced. However, the government has never done this for 800 years. Probably because they really don't pay much attention to this matter. But fortunately, now someone is starting to pay attention to this matter. The Sun Knights quickly built a fortress in Twin Gorges, setting up checkpoints grandly. All ships from all over the world are checked here. If it is an ordinary merchant ship or passenger ship, then it can pass easily. But if it's a pirate ship or a marine warship, then I'm sorry, they will immediately face the merciless attack of the Sun Knights. So of course, the world was once again shocked. After all, this kind of thing was the first time in history, and no one thought that it could not be done. And the effect is visible to the naked eye. The number of pirates entering the Grand Line is decreasing visible to the naked eye. Although there may not be any effect in a short period of time, once the time dimension is extended, even those who are hostile to the Illuminati will have to admit that after the Sun Knights set up checkpoints in Gemini Gorge, the number of pirates in the Grand Line there will be a kick down. Of course there will be people from Grand Line who go out to sea to become pirates, but Grand Line is only a small part of this world. Pirates from all over the world account for the vast majority of pirates operating in this sea area. The whole world marveled at the actions of the Sun Knights. And not just marvel at the strength they've shown to block the canal with ease. More importantly, the Illuminati, the god of the sun, showed no mercy to pirates. In this chaotic era of great pirates, this attitude, and the power that matches it, can make countless people feel at ease. Many neutral newspapers are even secretly praising us. Morgan said with a grin, after all, even the world government and marine are helpless against this terrible time. But in the sea area they ruled, the traces of pirates have become less and less. It doesn't matter. Dulin's reaction to this was very flat, it's not very useful. If the people's heart is a thing in a world without extraordinary power, it is indeed very important. The people's heart can even determine the rise and fall of a country. But in a world where personal power can determine everything, what the people think doesn't matter at all. For the powerful who can shatter mountains and rivers and cut off the sea with a single gesture, an army composed of ordinary people is not even qualified to serve as cannon fodder. World government has been unpopular for 800 years, and their gold in the sky has always been a policy that is hated by the people of all the member countries. But there is no way, the world government has the strongest power, an absolute power that no one can resist. Therefore, the franchise countries can only honestly submit to the government's command, so the people can only quietly collect money from the sky. But even so, the Illuminati has indeed changed the outlook of many people on the sea during this period of time. Especially in the area they rule, Alabasta. The people of this country have gradually become accustomed to the existence of the Illuminati. Lucci took out a bag of garbage from the kitchen and threw it into the trash can outside the back door. It was raining outside, and the light rain fell from the sky, hitting the garbage bags in the trash can, making a crackling sound. Lucci looked up. The dark clouds in the sky are not so dense, and a boat-shaped shadow can be vaguely seen in the clouds, moving slowly. Weather boat. What an incredible thing, to be able to make it rain in a country that has been poisoned by dancing fans. Lucci sighed silently in his heart. Ships like this are flying over the country's major cities at this time, bringing long-lost precious rain to this country that has been drought for more than a year. Of course, all the people of this country are grateful for this. After all, these ships are not one-off, they will continue to play a role in this country. This country, which has been in drought all year round, is about to usher in a change next. Not to mention the rain of gifts now. There is only one task assigned to them by their superiors, and that is to sneak into the high level of the Illuminati and finally find the lair of that group. The people of Alabasta, who have just experienced natural disasters and civil wars, have no resistance to such temptations. After being healed by the priest of the temple, the three brothers stayed in the temple as medical staff on the pretext that they had nowhere to go. Back in the temple, Lucci routinely communicated with the two partners. 0.3. Lucci was very calm. It is enough for the children to do our own thing. Have no idea, if it wasn't for the power bestowed by God, how could it be so extraordinary? Who wouldn't want to come here? There seem to be more and more people in Albania. After all, both the Illuminati and the Sun Knights have to recruit members at the grassroots level, so we can't let the priests handle the various chores of the temple by themselves, right? After throwing the garbage into the trash can, Lucci clapped his hands and returned to the temple. Jabra picked his nose. There are fewer and fewer pirates in this sea area, and all the alliance countries no longer pay the government money from the sky. Simple as the joy of living and working in the hearts of the people. Everything else has nothing to do with them. After all, the healing flame is real. It's none of our business. Bluno, who has always been taciturn, said, there are many people from other sea areas who choose to immigrate to this country, especially when the weather ships start to work, and the environment of this country will usher in great changes. Coupled with the unremitting efforts of the priests to preach, many people have gradually begun to believe in the God of the Sun. Chapter 202 Raiders of the Four Seas. The expansion of the Illuminati has temporarily come to an end. After all, there are not enough manpower. The next main energy should not be on expansion, but should be on intensive cultivation, to digest the land that has just been occupied, and really hold it in your hands. After all, everything is to advance the system tasks, and the expansion of the site is also to obtain new task treasure chests. So, after a long period of fanfare, the Illuminati fell silent. They are just preaching quietly in the sea area they occupy, so that the brilliance of the sun can shine in the hearts of more people. Time began to pass quietly like this. Sea Circle Calendar 1501 is slowly passing by. The second half of the Grand Line, Elbaf Warrior Village in the Kingdom of Giants. Who is today's challenger? In a large open space outside the warrior village, Dory and Brokey stood side by side with a big sword and a tomahawk, but it doesn't matter who you are. We will never lose. Behind them stood a group of smiling giant warriors, and in front of them were more giants full of fighting spirit. It's our turn today, right 17. A giant wearing a helmet, naked to the waist, and holding a small buckler stepped out. He looked very young, and he didn't even have a beard on his chin. Behind him were several giants who looked equally young. Oh, Dory looked at these people with a smile, Herding. Ha ha ha, brat, it's too early for you to challenge us. HMPH, it's too early to know. The giant boy Helding's face was full of fighting spirit. These two former leaders of the giant soldier pirates were his idols since he was a child. Is there anything better than being able to defeat your idol with your own hands? Halding doesn't think so. Then come on. Brocky laughed, but remember boy, if you lose, then we will join the Illuminati just like you. Become believers who believe in your sun god. Helding announced loudly. The news that Blue Ogre Dory and Red Ghost Brokey, the two captains of the former giant pirates, returned to Elbaf has spread throughout the giant kingdom. What shocked the giants even more than this news was that these two warriors who used to be giants in the Kingdom of Giants have now become members of the Illuminati. They actually came back to this country to preach. Fortunately, the Kingdom of Giants has never had any restrictions on religious beliefs. Even the Illuminati, which is rejected by the world government, can freely preach here. But the giants, they obviously have no interest in this aspect. So Dory and Brocky can only rely on force to spread their beliefs to their compatriots. Fortunately, after obtaining the flame bestowed by the gods, their strength has also been greatly improved, and a large number of giants have gathered in a short period of time. The belief in the sun began to slowly spread in Elbaf in this way. Naval Headquarters. It feels like I had a long dream. In the marshal's office, a man wearing a blue suit and a lazy expression was lying lazily on the sofa, with his little finger in his right hand digging his nostril. Didn't we do a lot of unbearable things during this period of time? Sitting next to him was a man in a red suit, with an extremely cold expression on his face. So, Mr. Sora, Mr. Sengoku still hasn't woken up. Marshal Marine, who was sitting on the office chair, sighed silently. No, before Dr. Vegapunk disappeared, he said that your souls have been damaged. This is an injury that ordinary medical techniques can't help at all. Even for you, you can wait for your own recovery slowly. The two Marine Vice Admirals who had just recovered from their drowsiness were silent at this moment, and the two who had experienced soul injuries knew better than others how terrible the injuries that went directly to the depths of the soul were. At least the two of them were dizzy like children before today. Damn it. Sakazuki clenched his fist. His fist had turned into magma, and he even set the armrest of the sofa on fire. Are those people so unscrupulous? Mr. Sora. That's right, it has grandiosely occupied the franchise countries under the world government, and even directly seized the sea area where the Grand Line enters the sea. Kuzan also sighed. There are still such terrible guys in the world, and even the world government can't do anything about them. After the two of them regained consciousness, they learned from Mr. Kong what happened at sea recently. They almost thought they were still awake and still dreaming. How could such a thing happen? The large fleet led by Mr. Garp and Mr. Zephyr was almost wiped out, Mariajoy was also burned to ruins, and the world government had to compromise with the enemy. Even if it is a dream, this dream is a bit too exaggerated. No one can do anything about this kind of thing. Kong shook his head. The other party does have such strength, this is a fact that no one can deny. Anyway, it's great that you are sober now. Sora felt relieved from the bottom of his heart. Marine is indeed lacking combat power now. 370. Sengoku is still lying on the hospital bed unconscious, and Gion also mysteriously disappears. Fortunately, these two boys are now sober. Otherwise, in the following time, Marine's life will not be too easy. After all, besides the Illuminati, they have many enemies, and the great pirates of New World have been making a lot of noise recently. Try to become stronger, Kuzan, Sakazuki. Kong said in a deep voice, our enemies are exaggeratedly strong. The two Marine Vice Admirals who just woke up nodded at the same time. They have been ignorant for such a long time, and they should almost play some role. This is how Sea Circle Calendar 1501 came to an end. Sea Circle Calendar 1502 is here. In the first few months of the year, the sea remains calm. The Illuminati did not move, and the world government did not launch an attack, so the two sides maintained a strange peace. On the contrary, the big pirates of New World fought hard. Both Kaido and Charlotte Linlin are expanding their power crazily, and they have fierce conflicts with Marine from New World from time to time. Then, this time, the Great Sun God gave the order. Almost, it's time to expand towards the Four Seas. Chapter 203 Kaido. March towards the Four Seas. Time goes back to a little earlier, before Dulin decided to enter the world. In the temple, Dulin, who was leisurely enjoying the massage of the maids, suddenly heard a ding in his ear. Dulin, who was drowsy, opened his eyes immediately. Haven't heard this voice for a long time. There is no doubt that this is the sound that the system task will make after it has been advanced to a new stage. Dulin clicked on the system panel instantly. Is there already a lot of sea areas in the territory column? These sea areas are composed of the islands in the front part of the Grand Line that are occupied by the Illuminati. Over the past year, these sea areas have appeared on Dulin's panel one after another. But the progress of the task has not been triggered. Until now, finally able to open the treasure chest again. It's been a long time since I opened a treasure chest. Under the surprised eyes of the maids, Dulin reached out and tapped in the void. In the area that only Dulin could see, the treasure chest that was shining with light suddenly shattered, and a card appeared in front of Dulin's eyes among the light spots flying all over the sky. This is a skill card. Appearing on the front of this skill card is a man wearing a black kimono with a white feathered fabric, elegant face and glasses. Dulin raised his eyebrows slightly. Another character from the Shinigami world, still an amazing guy. Aizen Sosuke, the second boss in Shinigami's work. It is also the role of Shinigami boss in the eyes of most people. It's a pity that it's not an equipment card, otherwise, no matter what he got from Hogyoku or Kyoka Suigetsu, there would be nothing in this world worthy of Dulin's fear. But the skill cards are not bad either. What's really scary about a man is not his Kyoka Suigetsu, but his Reiatsu, but his 4 skills of Zenkuan Zugi that have reached the peak of Shinigami. No matter which card of this kind you draw, you will never lose money. As long as the skill you don't get is one of the Kido that Aizen can use, it's fine. With such expectations, Dulin has directly crushed the card. In the next moment, Dulin opened his eyes slightly. Kido. The skill he got was the Kido that Aizen would use. All Kido, Hado, Bakudo, Kaido. Altogether, there are more than 200 ways to use Shinigami spells that have now been imprinted directly in Dulin's mind. Kido. Aizen Sosuke from the Shinigami world, a high-level spell that only Shinigami can use, divided into 3 types, Hado, Bakudo and Kaido, which can consume physical strength. Close black lens bracket. Sure enough, Kido has also been completely localized. The spells that could only be used by consuming Reiatsu can now be used directly by consuming stamina. In this way, the means I can use are slightly more diverse, so I won't always use flames. Well, the moves I know now should already surpass Mahad. However, Kido also has strengths and weaknesses. As far as I am concerned, the only ones who can really come in handy are the high-level Hado above the number 80 or 90, right? However, as expected of Aizen, almost all Kido are incomparably Grandmaster. Even if ordinary people get this skill card from him, it may not be an easy task for Kido-like Grandmaster. But of course there will be no problems for Dulin. Exploration and learning, the combination of the 2 skills makes him no matter what he wants to learn, it can already be called the speed of light. Just a little bit of speculation, Dulin has almost mastered these 200 spells. In this case, I can also play a guest role as a mage. Dulin thought so. Not bad, there are quite useful things out of the treasure chest. Dulin opened the system panel again and took a look. At this time, almost most of the sea area covered by the Illuminati has appeared on the panel, and only a very small part has not yet been fully controlled. But enough is enough. For the control of this sea area, it can be said that it is completely in control. Then, it's almost time to expand elsewhere. For example, 4 seas. Dulin is not in a hurry to expand towards the back of the park. After all, it is the core area ruled by the world government, where naval headquarters and Mariajoy are located. If it expands there, then I am afraid that the final war will start directly, and now is obviously not the time. So it can only expand in other directions. Now that you have mastered the upside-down mountain, let's expand towards the other 4 sea areas along the upside-down mountain. Wrong. Should be 5 slices. Behind the reversing mountain is New World. Since they have decided to expand in the 4 seas, how can New World be ignored? Next, let's start expanding in these 5 directions. Anyway, it now has the strength to expand. More than a year has passed, and the number of Sun Knights and priests under Dulin's command has of course ushered in another expansion. Dulin's physical age should be 17 years old by now, almost beginning to enter the adult stage. So as a matter of course, the number of fire seeds he can make every month has soared again, and now he can make more than 400 fire seeds every month. Quote. It's time to start expanding towards the world. Quote. That is to say, more than 400 Sun Knights or priests can be produced. In any case, now, the 8 Knights of the Gods have gathered together. It's just that Fram's aptitude is indeed a bit poor, and he hasn't awakened his unique ability until now. Maybe he still needs a fierce battle. Dulin immediately summoned the Knights of the Gods Nuomas under his command. Frem, Mahad, even Bullet and Moria who were far away in the New World were called by Dulin with the Flying Thunder God technique. The two nodded at the same time. So, the next expansion began. Now the combined number of Sun Knights and Priests is close to 10,000. Yes, and the number of priests trained by Mahad also exceeded 500. It is already a number that can be called a legion. It is worth mentioning that Fram is now also a member of the Knights of God. Dulin looked at the two capable generals under him. Leave this matter to the Illuminati and Sun Knight too. Of course, a force of this scale is fully sufficient to support Dulin's forces to expand towards other wider sea areas again. The main reason is that there is really no one worthy of bestowing high-level tinder. Dulin said, "Oh, yes, and New World." Chapter 204 Attack on Loguetown. Four Seas dispatched the Sun Knights and Priests. Neither the Marine nor the World Government had such amazing guys stationed in Four Seas. They were enough to deal with it. In the temple, Dulin continued to give orders. And even if the Marine and World Government really send some powerful guys to the Four Seas, Dulin can immediately use the Flying Thunder God technique to send his subordinates to support. The focus is on the New World. Dulin looked at Mahad who was wearing a black robe. "Mahad, you go there yourself. The New World is completely different from the Four Seas and even the Paradise. The dominant ones there are not the World Government and Marine, but the amazingly powerful big pirates. It is absolutely impossible not to conflict with them if you want to expand your power there. Therefore, there must be a strong figure in the past to sit in charge. Certainly none more suitable than Mahad. He and Bullet are absolutely unbeatable even in the New World, let alone with Moria on the sidelines." "It's one." Mahad respectfully replied. "Leave it to me, God." Dulin nodded slightly. Among his subordinates, there is no one he can trust more than Mahad. "So be it," Dulin lazily said. "The method of expanding 157 sheets has been used many times. I don't need to emphasize it again. I will leave it to you." Yes. Mahad and Framzizi got down on one knee. Then, Japanese floating ships were dispatched. There are already many such ships in the Sky Sanctuary. After all, there are excellent shipbuilders like Tom and his apprentices here. Coupled with the Sky Island craftsmen who have been studying with them for a long time and their technology has been greatly improved, shipbuilding has become a fairly simple matter, even for such a weather ship. The Sun Knights and Priests boarded such spaceships and began to move towards the Four Seas and the New World. Neither the upside-down mountain nor the calm belt can stop their progress at all. However, this time the expansion will not last too long. Dulin thought so. There are still not enough people in hand. If you want to absolutely control an island, you need a lot of combat power, and the number of Sun Knights and Priests is still not enough. It's a pity. If only overrun mode could be used for making sparks. In that case, you will be invincible, Bida, and you will directly create a bunch of high-level fire seeds to turn everyone into a Knight of God. But unfortunately not. Although the over-limit mode is powerful, but in the final analysis, it is the ability derived from the tinder. How can it be used to create the tinder itself? On the contrary, it belongs to Tiangong. It doesn't matter if it's too late, take it slowly, you already have an immortal life, so what is a little time? Dulin once again started his dull and boring life on the Island of Gods. At the same time, in the Four Seas, the brilliance of the sun is gradually shedding. Loguetown. This once unknown city has become famous all over the world since the execution of One Piece 4 years ago. Even people from other seas know that this is the island of beginning and end, where One Piece was born and died. At the same time, this island is also the starting point for a guy who claims to be a god. The fire he brought burned down a large block of Loguetown, but of course, after 4 years, those places have long since been rebuilt. Apart from these two special places, Loguetown is also a strategic hub of marine. This is the gateway from East Blue to the Grand Line, and it has always been the pass for marines to prevent pirates from entering the Grand Line. However, this role has now been greatly weakened. After all, there are now Sun Knights blocking the bottom of Upside Down Mountain to prevent the pirates from entering the Grand Line. Now the pirates of East Blue are almost in despair. In the past year or so, too many pirate groups were completely destroyed by the Sun Knights when they entered the Grand Line. Not only the East Blue, but the pirates in the other 3 sea areas who have ambitions to enter the Grand Line also realize that they don't seem to have the ability to break through the blockade of the Sun Knights. In more than a year, almost no pirate group was able to arrive at the Grand Line from all over the world. The chaotic scene of the Grand Line was almost interrupted by the simple interruption of the Sun Knights. But that's a long way off. For the people of Loguetown, what happened on the Grand Line has nothing to do with them. Nothing has changed in their lives. Until this day. Smoker is 16 years old. Already a well-built young man. As always, after his usual workout, he was ready to treat himself to lunch at one of his favorite restaurants. His goal is to become a Marine who upholds justice, but when he went to Marine base to sign up, he was rejected by the base chief, saying that he was too young to sign up when he became an adult. Although Smoker was somewhat unwilling, he did not give up his dream of becoming a Marine. He still insists on exercising hard every day, trying to make his body stronger before joining Marine. But on this day, something unexpected happened. Just when he was about to go to the restaurant for dinner, Smoker suddenly saw something falling from the sky. That is, Mr. Smoker squinted his eyes carefully, then widened his eyes again after seeing clearly. Boat. A ship dropped from the sky. Surrounded by clouds and bubbles, it looks like a strange ship. That is, Smoker's body trembled for a moment. It was the first time he saw that kind of ship with his own eyes, but it wasn't the first time he saw it. He had seen it in the newspaper before. That's a ship only used by people who belong to a certain organization. How did they come here? How did they end up in Loguetown? Smoker's mind was already in turmoil. Then he noticed the ship sinking towards a corner of the island. That direction is. Smoker was inexplicably terrified, and in the next moment he ran forward with all his strength, heading towards the direction where the floating ship fell. That's the direction of Marine Base. The area of Loguetown is not small, and the distance between Smoker and Marine Base is not too close. When he ran out of the base out of breath, that was what he saw. People floating in the sky with flapping flame wings. And the Marines below put down their weapons and squatted on the ground with their heads in their arms. Smoker just felt his mouth dry. A terrible conjecture emerged in his mind. The tentacles of the Illuminati have extended to East Blue. Chapter 205 The Government's Response. New World Raiders start. All Marines, please be quiet. Tritter flapped the flame wings on his back, calmly looking down at the Marine soldiers crouching on the ground with their heads in their hands. As the number 2 figure in the actual sense of the Illuminati, he certainly won't stay in one place all the time. This time in the Raiders of the Four Seas, he was sent to East Blue by the God-tier officer. Although this sea area is the weakest sea in the general sense, it also has special features. For example, this is the sea area where One Piece was born and died. For example, this is also the hometown of the Marine hero. Of course, it is necessary to be a little more serious in dealing with this sea area, so Tritter came here in person. When he and his fellow knights fell from the sky in a weather ship, the Marines stationed on the island tried to fight back. After all, no matter what, this base was also established directly by Naval Headquarters, and it is an important naval base under the command of a Naval Headquarters colonel. Even in the face of an attack by a powerful enemy, it is impossible to directly choose to surrender. But of course, such resistance is also meaningless. Major Marine, who mustered up his courage, was directly blown to pieces by Tritter's flaming gun. A guy of this level is too weak. Tritter wasn't arrogant. He just felt that, based on his current strength, if he wanted to fight him, Marine would at least send a vice admiral over. Do you understand the two-color hockey plus double flames, plus the gold content of Zone Demon Fruit power? After finishing all the Marines who had the courage to fight back, the remaining Marines naturally completely lost their will to fight. Now they can only put down their weapons and squat on the ground with their heads in their hands. The next thing to do is to occupy the island. The island is East Blue's gateway to the Grand Line. The geographical location is very important, that's why the God-tier officer sent himself here in person. The Marine base has been settled, so the next step is to go to the city hall. This town is the same as the water capital, there are no kings and nobles, and the island is governed by the elected city government. Marine only plays the role of maintaining law and order, and does not participate in actual governance. What the hell are you trying to do? At this time, Tay suddenly heard a roar from the side. He turned his head and saw a handsome white-haired boy looking at them angrily. Tritter was not angry, and still had a gentle smile on his face. The God-tier officer said that a qualified priest should make all the people feel like a spring breeze. Spreading fear is what the Sun Knights should be doing, not them. It's just to spread the light of the sun, so that the people of this town can also bathe in the light of God. Stop talking to yourself. Smoker roared at the top of his voice. No one in the sea knows your true colors, but you are just a group of bastards who act recklessly for their own ambitions. Tritter narrowed his eyes slightly. Young man, you seem to have deeply misunderstood us. Stop talking nonsense. Smoker was filled with anger. Get off this island. This is his hometown, the place where he grew up. How can these guys be allowed to act recklessly here? Tritter smiled softly. This is really an unreasonable request. Later, in Loguetown, amidst the astonished eyes of the residents, the airship landed above the city hall. Then there was a speech delivered by Tritter on behalf of the Illuminati on the square in the center of the town. It is probably that the Illuminati will enter this city next, and will bring the light of the sun to all the people in this town. This also happens on many islands in East Blue. Basically, they are all in the waters near Loguetown, and the islands near the reverse mountain. The Illuminati and the Sun Knights came here, and the custom is to show force first, forcing the local regime to bow its head. Then the priests came out and began to preach the power of God to the people. Even apart from East Blue, traces of the Illuminati and Sun Knights also appeared in the other 3 sea areas. They came from the direction of the reverse mountains and began to cover the sea leading to the mouth of the Grand Line. Those bastards are finally on the move again. Naval Headquarters, Marshal Kong smashed the desk in front of him with a fist. Damn it. I have such a big appetite, I'm attacking all over the world. Could it be that they really want to take over the whole world? Asking for flowers. Vice Admiral, Marine's Chief of Staff, who was sitting on the sofa, had a headache. There has never been such an enemy in the long history of the government. Don't hesitate, sir, Marine Vice Admiral Sakazuki said loudly. This group of people can no longer be allowed to act recklessly. Let's attack them. They and the evil they represent must be wiped out. Don't say stupid things, Sakazuki. Marshal Marine sighed and shook his head. It's not such a simple matter to start a war with those people. If he acted rashly, the god of the sun would come back with merciless revenge. Let's see what the above says first. Above, how do you say? Damn it. The 5 elders were naturally furious. After more than a year, have you finally started to act again? This time the target is actually all over the world. Compared with the chaotic Grand Line, the relatively calm 4 seas are of course the basic board of the world government, and most of the government alliance countries are distributed in these 4 sea areas. If the 4 seas fall, then the world government is almost finished. We can't pamper them any longer. A 5 elders gritted his teeth. Even if we can't fight them head on, we must find a way to stop their expansion. But what can we do? This is the one thing that bothers the 5 elders the most. They can only be threatened by the other party unilaterally, but they have no countermeasures. Doesn't he like the people to believe in him? Then we will start from this aspect. Let the CP go. To guide the people to stand up against them. I don't believe they can convince everyone. In addition, whether it is a member country or a non-member country, it can be used. It is impossible for them to be willing to watch their country being taken by others. After being impassioned, the 5 elders fell silent again. So it seems that's all they can do. How do you feel more humiliated? But immediately a brand new message arrived, which brought them inspiration. What? Illuminati will appear in New World. Chapter 206 Target Beehive Island. The second half of the Grand Line, New World. This sea area is often considered the most powerful sea area in the world. Because the climate here is the most abnormal, the magnetic field here is the most disordered, and the monsters living here are also the most powerful. All the ambitious people who go to sea in search of the great secret treasure left by One Piece must have this sea area as their ultimate goal. This is the sea area where the legendary secret treasure is buried. Like the park in the first half, if you want to sail smoothly in New World, you have to rely on the record pointer, and it is more special than the park, with a special pointer composed of 3 pointers. Because in many cases, it is not known whether there is a way to land on the island that is going to go next. Therefore, it is necessary to keep 2 other pointers that can guide other magnetic directions to ensure safety. But 757 is like the 7 routes of the park will eventually point to the Fishman Island. All of New World's magnetic routes will eventually merge into one, all located on an island at the end of New World. It's just that that island is not the final island named by Roger. There is the legendary Great Secret Treasure, the island called Raftel by Roger. No one knows where it is. The nominal end of the New World is an island called Waterstar Island. In fact, this island is the end of all the magnetic chains of the entire Grand Line. No matter how you use the record pointer, you can only reach this island in the end. However, although it is not the ultimate island in the true sense, the pirates who can actually reach this island are also a minority among the few. At this time, a certain man has arrived here. There is a ruin on this island, and a rumor is recorded in the vague text on it. It is said that as long as you find the 4 red historical texts, you will be able to find the way to the real final island. A man in a black robe and a black pointed hat stood in the ruins, quietly looking at the writing on it. Hey hee 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 hee. It's no secret that even the government can't be bothered to spoil it. A man of unusually tall stature walked behind Mahad, and let out a weird laugh. Thank you, Moria. Mahad turned his head and looked at his colleagues who had come from afar. It shouldn't be easy to drive all the way here. Nothing. Moria chuckled. Since it's God's order, then of course I won't have any reason. Fighting for the gods, fighting to spread the glory of the gods, this is the mission of the knights. However, this time, he is actually preparing to attack New World directly. He really deserves to be a god. Such courage is astonishing. Moria laughed. So, Mr. Mahad, where should we start? There are not too many people coming with me, so the scope of this expansion will not be too large. Mahad said calmly, the target sea area is this part of the last section of New World. Learn. Moria nodded slightly. Since it's this part of the sea, there are 2 guys who can't get around it no matter what. One is Whitebeard. His expression became a little more serious. The Whitebeard pirates have always been active in this sea area, and there are even rumors that Whitebeard's hometown is also nearby. If we start to expand here, then he will never turn a blind eye. Quote. The other thing is, after a slight pause, Moria continued, Akoku, a monster who once belonged to the Rocks pirate like Whitebeard, after the Rocks pirate was destroyed, he formed his own pirate group. He has occupied the island called Beehive Island, where the Rocks pirate was once stationed, and unfortunately, it is within our target sea area. Hive Island. Mahad thought for a while, then let's start from there. Akoku, right, just use him to make our name and tell the seas to prepare for the glory of God. Hey hee 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 hee. Moria laughed again and again. Then Mr. Mahad, should we inform Bullet to let him come to support? Although Wanokuni is still some distance away from this sea area, if we send the floating ship, it won't take much time. Not to mention that you can ask the gods to take action and directly send people over. As Akoku strong, Mahad was not arrogant at all, and asked a little more solemnly. I don't know much about that. Moria shook her head, but I think it should be much inferior to monsters like Whitebeard. His men don't have any big deal guys, not even one with a bounty of more than 1 billion. Since this is the case, there is no need to spend more time. But this view is about to change soon. At least in this time period, people in the sea generally believe that he is a big pirate who is as famous as Kaido Charlotte Linlin. Some Magic Valley towns are similar to Paradise, where pirates gather. The next goal is 5.5 Honeycomb Island, generally known directly as Pirate Island. Mahad is not arrogant, he is just matter of fact. Everyone says New World is a sea of monsters. He doesn't even feel intimidated by Naval Headquarters Hero Vice Admiral, let alone a guy of Akoku's level. Understood. Akoku. Once the chief cadre of the Rocks Pirate, even after the name Rocks Pirate was erased from history by the world government's efforts, his reputation is still heard by people on the sea. Some people were left behind, and after occupying this uninhabited deserted island, Mahad rode on the back of the cursed dragon and soared into the air, followed by several floating ships flying in the sky. Even the name of the man occupying this island at this time is resounding all over the world. But the scale of the pirates gathered here is far more exaggerated than that in Magic Valley Town. Mahad pointed at the staff in his hand, and the yellow flying dragon had already fluttered from the condensed magic circle. Let's go directly. Because, the airship fleet led by the god-tier officer of the Illuminati is very close. If it's just a guy of that level, there is really nothing to be afraid of. Then let the world take a good look at what kind of existence the real monster refers to. Moria grinned. Chapter 207 Akoku. Hive Island. This island has been a paradise for pirates since long ago. There is a fairly prosperous town on the island. Of course, all the residents are pirates. Like Magic Valley Town, although there are many shops in the town, almost all the operators are retired pirates. However, although this island is considered the most dangerous place by all nearby countries, the scenery on the island is actually quite beautiful. The most striking building on the island is a skeleton-like building where the ruler of the island, Captain Akoku, lives. On this day, this game is going on the Hive Island. A hunting game that only belongs to pirates. The pirates on the island set sail, went to sea and captured some civilians. Then put them on this island, and the next thing to do is an exciting hunting. Pirates who want to participate in the game will pay a considerable amount of registration fee. After part of these entry fees is taken out and given to Captain Akoku, the rest will be used as a prize pool. The pirate who hunts the most ordinary people in this game will be the game champion, and he will enjoy all the prizes alone. 18 Captain Akoku likes this game very much, and he will hold it almost every month. And today, it's time for the game again. The civilians who were captured by the pirates were trembling at this moment. They were held in a circular fence, with a total number of about 500 or 600 people. Everyone shivered and huddled together, because beyond the fence were pirates waving weapons and looking excited. Everyone has already understood that what awaits them next is probably a very tragic end. Ha 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 ha. Let's start quickly, I can't wait. Today I will kill 20. Whoever dares to rob me, don't blame lousy subordinates for being merciless. Then why don't you die first? Why don't you just become part of Lousy's hunting record? The pirates were shouting excitedly. Their cheers and shouts made the detainees even more frightened, and many of them even broke down and cried. Ha 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 ha. It's the happiest time of the month again. The man sat on a seat placed on a high platform, holding a phone bug in his hand and shouting loudly, then, let's try our best to please Lousy. Games start. With the man's order, the gate of the fence where all the civilians were imprisoned suddenly opened. Run, run. The pirates began to knock on the fence with their weapons, laughing loudly. You have 5 minutes to escape, just run away. Whether you want to find a place to hide, or want to find a weapon to fight back, or want to escape to the port and take a boat out to sea. Or, the pirates almost squeezed in through the gaps in the fence, and the civilians inside were frightened to keep crowding in, and the people in the middle were even suffocated. You can also stay here, and when the time comes to an end, it will directly become our hunting record. Most of the people haven't reacted yet, but after all, not everyone gave up hope. Finally, some people gritted their teeth and rushed out of the fence and rushed towards the inside of the town. They wanted to go across town to the port and leave here by boat. They don't want to die, they still want to live well. With these people as an example, many people in the back finally reacted. No matter how fearful and timid you are, you can't give up the hope of survival after all. Almost all the people rushed out. Oh, let's go. The pirates strolled forward laughing, just watching these civilians rush into the town. After the last civilian figure disappeared at the end of the street, the man sitting on the high platform smiled. Well, today's prey seem to be particularly active, so we can't lose to them. Although there are still more than 2 minutes, I will announce. The hunt begins. Oh. The pirates laughed happily, and then rushed into the town like a black tide. They wield long knives and muskets in their hands, and then they will join this exciting hunting minister. What follows is a hearty massacre. Use blood and carnage to brighten up that big banquet tonight. The pirates are about to rush into the town. But in fact, they are not in a hurry. When those civilians who were eager to escape searched the town for a while, they would find that all the houses were closed and guarded, and there was no place for them to hide. Not to mention the port, all the ships have been driven to a distance from the coast in advance. This is not a fair game. After all, the prey is just the prey, and there is no possibility of escape. However, it is this time. Hey he. Crazy laughter fell from the sky. The man with a strong figure directly landed on the square in front of the high platform. You seem to be playing a game, so can we join 890? What? The pirates who were going to join the pirates were shocked and turned around in amazement. Have enemies? The man who was originally sitting lazily on the chair also stood up in surprise. Amidst the smoke, a man with shadows spreading under his feet slowly walked out. He raised his head and looked at the man standing on the high platform with a strange smile. You guy is. The man has already recognized the identity of the person who came, but Hikari Moria. What are you guys here for? Hey he. Of course for. Moria grinned. Scatter the light of God all over this island. The radiance of God. The man's eyes widened instantly. There are only one group of people who can use this saying in this world. Hey, look up, Akoku. Moria pouted her lips upwards, welcome the god-tier officer coming. God-tier officer. Akoku looked up in astonishment. In the sky, the man riding on the back of the yellow flying dragon is slowly descending. Akoku, now you have a choice. He is saying, surrender or death, choose. Chapter 208 The Despair Brought by Mahad. Akoku is a middle-aged man. Of course he is not young anymore. As a former big cadre of the rocks, the time to ride the sea was even earlier than Whitebeard. He is almost 60 years old this year, although he still appears to be in his prime because of his strength. But in fact, the wrinkles at the corners of his eyes have indeed exposed the erosion of time on him. Years will make people grow old and gradually lose their vitality, but on the other hand, they can also increase experience and make people more mature. Akoku is of course an experienced big pirate. So when Mahad appeared, his brows were already wrinkled, and his hands were unconsciously pressed on the hilt of his waist. Illuminati God-tier officer, Mahad. He called out the name of the man above him very solemnly. After the Battle of Alabasta, not many people in the sea did not know Mahad. Everyone knows that he is the knight under the command of the Sun God, the supreme commander of the entire Illuminati, and is known as the God-tier officer. In the Battle of Alabasta, he was even tied with the marine hero. Akoku, who has personally experienced the Battle of the Island of the Gods, knows better than anyone else the terrifying power possessed by the hero Garp. To be evenly matched with such a monster, the strength of the man in front of him is already unimaginably strong. Not good. Such a guy suddenly appeared in front of him, this is not a good thing. Akoku took a deep breath. He was apprehensive in his heart, but on the surface, Akoku certainly wouldn't let his aura fall to the wind. Mahad, what do you mean? Do you want to start a war with Lousy? Akoku looked up at the sky and spoke angrily. If you reject the light of God. Mahad's reaction was very flat, then of course you can only be our enemy. The corners of Moria's mouth were already raised high at this moment. He is very clear that no matter what Akoku thinks in his heart, there will only be one answer for him now. Then let the horse come. The prince had already pulled out the long sword at his waist, and said with a sneer, Lousy wants to see what kind of power you, the so-called Illuminati, you, the so-called god-tier officer, have. Let Lousy, the senior, teach you well. The law of survival in this sea. Hey he 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 he. Lousy knew his answer would be this. Moria laughed out loud. The shadow under his feet rushed out at this moment, sweeping away in all directions like a torrent. Mahad also nodded lightly. Understood, in this case, your existence will no longer be needed. Hey he 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 he. Let's meet the destruction. Shadow Core. Accompanied by Moria's loud laugh, countless Shadow King soldiers flew out of the turbulent shadow torrent. Moria's awakened ability allows him to communicate with the Shadow Realm, borrow shadow power and manipulate it. This greatly improved the ability of his shadow fruit. The shadow soldiers wielding shadow weapons have already rushed towards the pirates at this moment. Fighting. Akoku growled. In fact, there is no need for him to issue orders at all, the pirates have subconsciously picked up their weapons and prepared to fight back in the face of the surging shadow soldiers. Immediately, something that frightened them appeared. The combat power of these shadow soldiers is definitely not strong, and the way of attack can only be described as dull. The pirates who have experienced many battles are very handy in dealing with them, and they can easily split them with the weapons in their hands. However, although these soldiers have a body, they are still shadows in essence. How can a physical attack destroy a shadow? In the next moment of being scattered, the shadow soldier's body condensed again, and then slashed at the pirates in front of him with a backhand sword. Death begins at this moment. The screams and howls almost became a noisy and disorderly movement. He 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 he. Did you see it, Akoku? This is the power given by God to Lousy. Moria was showing off wildly. UB asterisk 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 D, die for Lousy. Akoku has already shot out like lightning, the long sword in his hand is wrapped around the mighty Haki, and he will cut Moria in half in the next moment. Hehehehe. Shadow Mage. Moria disappeared in an instant, replaced by a shadow that looked similar to him. The shadow was cut in half by Akoku in an instant. Of course Akoku wouldn't feel any excitement about it. Shadow Giants. A large number of shadows rushed upwards, and finally entangled into a huge human shape. This huge shadow had already waved its right arm and smashed down. Drink. Akoku didn't feel any fear at all. Ren sent out a brilliant slash and directly cut off the arm of the target. But it was meaningless, the severed arm healed in the next instant and still fell down. Akoku frowned and drew back. In the next instant, the ground shattered, and the entire island seemed to be shaking. Such amazing power. Akoku's eyelids couldn't help but twitch, it would be bad if he was hit. Moria. At this time, Mahad in the sky suddenly spoke. Mr. Mahad. Moria looked up. You and the knights take care of the other guys on the island. Mahad's tone was flat, and above him were floating ships that were descending. And the Sun Knights who had already soared into the sky from the deck of the ship flapping their flame wings. Mahad looked down at the eyes below, and stared at Akoku calmly. Don't waste time, leave this guy to me. Moria sighed. This is disgusted by Mr. Mahad. That's right, if you want to fight this guy Akoku, even if you use your ability to press the bottom of the box, I'm afraid it will take a long time, and there is no certainty of victory. Let Mr. Mahad take care of it. Just deal with the cadres yourself. Quote. Understood. Moria nodded slightly, and in the next instant he had disappeared into the shadows, lurking into the kingdom of shadows. Akoku tightened his grip on the sword in his hand. Then comes the real battle. In order to save time, I just went all out. Mahad said so. Overrun mode is turned on instantly. All mana costs and casting times are reduced to 0. Then Laozi is the same. Akoku's speed is amazing, he is like a bolt of lightning. The air was pounded by his stepping, and it was ejected upward like walking on flat ground. Moonwalk. Except, the haki on the blade began to surge like a current of water. As an old man on the sea, Akoku's armed color has of course also cultivated to an extraordinary level. The chain of demons. A large number of cavities appear around Akoku's body. Before he could react at all, countless chains had shot out from the void Jiao. Akoku swung the blade subconsciously and slashed. These chains are very tough, but it is not difficult for a great swordsman like Akoku to cut them. But, the curse of the six-pointed star. When Akoku was busy chopping the chain, the circle of hexagrams formed around his waist in an instant. Then his body stiffened directly. I can't move. Akoku's eyes widened. He immediately realized that everything was caused by the magic circle on his waist, so he immediately wanted to call Haki to destroy the magic circle. However, he forgot that he was still resisting those chains just now. After his body stiffened, those chains shot forward without any hindrance, directly restraining him layer by layer. Then, it's over. Mahad's staff pointed at Akoku, and a large number of black orbs had condensed on his body. Black explosion destroyer magician. The black spheres fell like rain. Akoku's body was shaking. How come? How can the gap be so big? For the first time, he felt fear. Boom. Chapter 209 Capture the Hive Island. Hive Island. After a series of violent explosions, a figure fell from the smoke. He landed on the solid ground of the square, and his body bounced playfully on the ground twice. The cursed dragon covered in yellow slowly lowered its height. Mahad, who was riding on the back of the flying dragon, looked down at the main body whose body had been almost bombarded so that he could not see a human appearance. What a stupid guy. With this level of strength, do you also think that you can be a chariot with a mantis arm, that you can block the light of the sun? Mahad turned his head. The battle on his side was indeed over, but the battle in other places on the island was still going on. Hey hee 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 hee. The shadow gathering place. Moria was laughing out loud. A large number of shadows rushed out from the ground under his feet, flew up like a fountain, and then fell down under the effect of gravity. He poured them into his mouth again. Then his body began to swell. The shadow becomes Moria to amplify her own power. Not only that, more shadows were winding towards the surface of his body, forming a pitch black armor covering his body. 937. His opponents are Akoku's cadres. As a member of the big cadre of the Rocks Pirate and now a member of the great pirates in the New World, Akoku certainly cannot be alone. In fact, the powerful pirates in this sea will never lack followers as long as they are willing. Of course, Akoku also has a group of powerful subordinates. Although it doesn't sound very good in Moria's mouth, even if you look at the whole New World, their strength is definitely not weak. It's just a pity that Moria is even stronger. Moria's body at this time has swelled to an even more exaggerated level than the giant's. The height is almost over 50 meters. Every time he swung his fist, he almost set off a gust of wind. His fist hit the ground, and the whole island trembled. The dense cracks almost tore the island apart. What's even more astonishing is that not only his attack power, but also his defense power is exaggeratedly strong. The shadow armor covering his body is already tough enough, coupled with his powerful armament haki, these cadres under Akoku can't break through his defense at all, and they don't even have the ability to leave a little damage on his body. Hey. Then hand over your shadows to Laozi. Moria was laughing out loud. The shadow spread out from under his body, eroding half of the island in an instant. Then, countless shadows spewed up from the shadow area like tentacles. These surging shadows seemed to turn into a forest at this moment, covering all the enemies. The tentacle shadow entangles all the enemies, even if it is smashed in the next moment, it will tenaciously extend again immediately, greatly hindering their actions. What was even more astonishing was that Moria's huge body disappeared instantly and appeared behind several enemies. Moria has the ability to swap bodies with his own shadow, which means that as long as he is in this shadow area, he can move around as he wants. Hey hee 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 hee. With a big laugh, a huge slap fell, and several enemies were directly shot into the ground. In the face of Leah's overwhelming power, Akoku's subordinates were powerless to fight back. The battle was over soon, and the cadres under Akoku's command were all mercilessly photographed underground by Moria and turned into stickers on the ground. As for the other miscellaneous fish, the Sun Knights are enough to deal with them, and the flames have already burned them to ashes. Thus ended the battle. Akoku and his men have all been wiped out by CACJ in 7s and 8s. However, this island has not been immediately brought under control. After all, there are still a large number of pirates living on this island. Mahad flew to higher skies on the back of the cursed dragon. It can be clearly seen from here that the pirates on the island are fleeing frantically at this time, swarming towards the port. Mr. Mahad, what are we going to do with those guys? Moria, who was huge like a hill, shouted towards the sky with her throat. While shouting, he also grabbed several cadres under Akoku's command from the ground, and tore the shadows off them with a single hand. Then these guys were stuffed directly into the Shadow Kingdom with their shadows. If the guys who have been deprived of their shadows die, their shadows will go with them. So if you want to effectively use their shadows, you have to keep these guys alive. This is not a difficult task, it is necessary to lock them in the Kingdom of Shadows and send them some food regularly. Just let them run. Mahad said calmly, let them run to the sea in one breath, wouldn't it just make this island clean? Moria grinned, understood, it would be more troublesome to find and kill them one by one on the island, and it would be easier to deal with them when they swarm to the sea. Mahad did not answer. The pirates are indeed fleeing crazily. Even Captain Akoku has been killed, and no one can stop the Illuminati's actions. If you don't want to be killed, you can only run away. At this time, the ordinary people who had just been put on this island fell into a daze. What the hell happened? Why are these pirates running faster than them? When they rushed to the port, the pirates realized how stupid it is to put the ship on the sea far away from the coast. They could only jump into the water one by one, displaying their lifelong swimming skills and swimming towards the boats on the distant sea. The people who were kidnapped could only stand on the shore dumbfounded. After spending a while, the pirates finally boarded the pirate ship on the sea, no matter who owns it, and now they set sail to get away from the island. But it is this time. Black Explosion Destroyer Magician. Mahad briefly activated the overrun mode again. 10 black spheres have already moved towards the pirate ships on the sea in the next instant. Then, fireworks bloomed on the sea. Under the dazzling light, the people standing in a daze at the port were even more stunned. So what the hell is going on now? Chapter 210 The Whispering Monsters. Hive Island. This island, which is generally called Pirate Island by the surrounding people, is about to become a misnomer today. Because at this time all the pirates on the island have been eradicated by the Light Society. The town, which was originally noisy with people, has completely quieted down now, come down. Thankfully, the island hasn't suffered much damage. Even if Moria was trying to have fun just now, it would only bring about a small part of the building collapse. Mr. Mahad, what are we going to do with these guys? Moria brought the group of people who didn't know whether they were lucky or unlucky to Mahad. Mahad glanced at them. Everyone had a look of fear on their faces. They were almost huddled into a ball, hugging each other and shivering. If you want to leave, you can call someone to pick you up, and if you want to stay, you can also stay on this island. For these ordinary people, Mahad did not mean to embarrass them in any way. Hey. Of course he stayed. Next, this island will be bathed in the radiance of the sun. Moria smiled and said, this island will be supported by Mr. Mahad in the future, and you should feel honored to be the first batch of residents to stay here. The people just shivered and kept silent. It turned out to be the Illuminati. This group of people is more terrifying than the pirates on Hive Island. Now even this pirate island has been occupied by them. Their attitude is already obvious. If possible, who would like to stay by the side of these horrible guys? Tisk. Moria smacked her lips in displeasure. Don't worry about it. Mahad's face was calm. Then it's time to start expanding towards other islands in this sea area. Leave this matter to the Sun Knight and the priests. Although New World is the strongest sea area in the world, it is a gathering place for monsters. But in fact, most of the areas are no different from the park. Most of the people living here are ordinary people, and most of the countries that exist in this sea area are also ordinary countries. The Sun Knights and priests are completely enough. Thus, the expansion of the Illuminati began again. When they began to expand, they naturally attracted the attention of the whole world in an instant. After all, both the Illuminati and Dulin, the god of the sun, are already terrifying existences that cannot be ignored in the world. All of a sudden, the major newspapers began to report extensively. The Illuminati began to expand again, and even included New World in addition to the Four Seas. Even Akoku, who used to be the big cadre of the Rocks pirate and now occupies the Hive Island, has been killed, and the Hive Island has become the territory of the Illuminati. No matter who it is, this matter can be called sensational. As a result, the natural monsters were also alarmed. In this sea area, there is a whale-like skyship. Father. This time, no matter what, you can't ignore it. Marco with a pineapple head held a newspaper in his hand and said loudly, Sphinx is probably one of their targets too. Sphinx is an ordinary island located in this sea area. If there is anything special about it, it is probably poor. But in fact, what the people on the sea do not know is that this island has a more special place, that is, it is the hometown of the legendary great pirate Whitebeard. Whitebeard's brow was also furrowed by this time. Even though he has been away from his hometown for many years, he has never forgotten the island that loves work. Even now that he has become a pirate, Whitebeard never forgets to give back to his hometown. He would send his part of the wealth looted by the pirates to the Sphinx every year to help the poor country. Even though he doesn't have any friends or family on this island. So he is always poor. But this time, the hometown he has always cared about seems to be threatened soon. Turn. Whitebeard made a decisive decision and said without hesitation, go to the Sphinx. Yes, of course, Marco's face was extremely excited. Even if it is about to be an enemy with such a terrifying opponent as the Illuminati. But, as long as you're with Pop, and the family on the boat, there's nothing to be afraid of. The Whitebeard pirates go into action. At the same time, a desert island somewhere in New World. Quote. The monster who is holding a huge wine gourd and pouring wine into its mouth is laughing loudly, it really keeps lousy waiting. 0 for flowers. So, is that kid here? That kid who calls himself a god. Standing in front of him was Jhin wearing a leather jacket and pants to hide his true appearance. He shook his head. I don't know for now. The only ones who appeared on the Hive Island were the god-tier officer named Mahad and Moria. God-tier officer. The guy who beat that old B************* D Garp at Alabasta. Kaido rubbed his chin. Seemed like a very interesting guy too. Quote. Then, Mr. Kaido, are we going to dispatch? Head to Hive Island? Jhin asked with some expectation. It has been quite some time since they were kicked out of Wano Kuni. Since this period of time, he has been trying his best to increase his strength. Is now the time for shame. It's going to be dispatched, but it's not in a hurry. Kaido waved his hand casually. Isn't that sea area the territory of that stinky old man Whitebeard? Let him have fun with that group first. Ember's eyes lit up. Does that mean Whitebeard goes first and they reap the benefits? I see. Ooh-hoo. Ready to sail, Jhin. Let's make a big fuss. Yes. At the same time, another monster resident in New World, Cake Island. Has New World become their target? Charlotte Linlin frowned. Her eyes were serious. Whitebeard and Kaido, I'm afraid they can't stop that group of people. Even the large fleet sent by Marine ended badly. How did Kaido and Whitebeard, fighting against each other, possibly win the Illuminati? If it goes on like this, it will be troublesome. Maybe New World will really fall directly. No, Mother must do something. Charlotte Linlin said to herself. Who else in the world regards the Illuminati as a thorn in their side and is absolutely unwilling to let them develop? Of course it is. Mariajoy, Pangu City. What? A contact from Charlotte Linlin. The 5 elders were stunned when they first received the news. Why do pirates still contact them? But right away they realized what was the reason. Ha 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 ha, that guy feels the threat brought by the Illuminati. Chapter 211 Series. Whitebeard lands on the Sphinx. The 5 elders got in touch with Charlotte Linlin almost immediately. I won't talk nonsense anymore. I don't think there is anything else to talk about between us except this matter. On the other end of the phone bug came the wild voice of Charlotte Linlin. How to stop the expansion of the Illuminati in New World. I don't think you will care about this 5 elders. The 5 elders on the phone looked at each other, and then one of them stepped forward and picked up the phone bug. Isn't it hard for you? Otherwise, it's impossible to contact us. There was a sneer in 5 elders' voice. I'm afraid I've been frightened by the Light Society. Mom, say what you want. Charlotte Linlin also sneered back. I just think we should cooperate. 5 elders, there is no reason why you don't know how dangerous the 247 gang is, no. Or should I say, no one knows better than you. After all, you are the ones who suffer the most. 5 elders snorted softly. How do you want to cooperate? Say yes first, and don't expect the government to lead the way for you. Mom, can't you just say that directly? Charlotte Linlin laughed loudly. I never thought that one day I would be able to discuss cooperation with you. Then I'm going to be blunt. I'm going to find Kaido and Whitebeard 2 bastards for cooperation. No matter what you are afraid of, there will never be a more suitable opportunity than now. If you all go all out, maybe we can catch each other. The call ended, and the 5 elders were also at a loss. Does this guy have any credibility? One of the 5 elders couldn't help asking aloud. Anyway, I don't think it's necessary for her to deceive us. Another 5 elders took up the conversation, unless he had already reached an alliance with his partner in advance. So, is this an opportunity? Ask Lord I Am for instructions. This matter must be decided by him himself. The 5 elders feel deeply that this is a huge opportunity. If the kid who claimed to be a god really appeared on the battlefield in the end, then they could have prepared in advance and wiped him out in one go. Really very good chance. As long as the combat power on the frontal battlefield has exceeded the level that guy's subordinates can handle, then of course he will appear in person himself. In this case, you only need Lord I Am to release the final weapon in advance, and everything may be over. Maybe even get rid of those annoying guys in New World by the way. The faces of the 5 elders couldn't help showing bright smiles. This might be the best opportunity. When they went to consult the real king of the world, New World, Charlotte Linlin had already contacted Kaido. Huge ships ride the wind and waves on the sea. Linlin, you guys are calling at this time, isn't it because of the Illuminati? Kaido stood on the bow and laughed loudly. Sitting on his shoulder was a little girl with white hair, who was pulling his long beard with a smile. Kaido didn't care, and let the little girl do whatever she wanted. Mom, Kaido, there's no way you're still standing still, right? Charlotte Linlin on the other end of the phone also laughed. I escaped from Wano Kuni like a bereaved dog back then. It's impossible to pretend that nothing happened. If you contact Lousy specifically to say such stupid things, you be **************** D, Lousy will hang up. Kaido sneered. The little girl on his shoulders had already climbed to the top of his head, and she poked her head down from above. Her 2 big clear eyes met her father's eyes. Kaido stretched out his hand to hold down his daughter on top of his head, and then heard the voice of the phone bug. My mother believes that you must have already started to act. After all, that old B*********** D Whitebeard has already been married. Mom, you will never give up this opportunity to reap the benefits of the fishermen, will you? 11. Kaido snorted coldly. I will go there too, and I will never allow such a guy to occupy New World. So I contacted the world government, and they will never give up this opportunity. Charlotte Linlin stopped talking, but said bluntly, the Whitebeard pirates should be headed to Sphinx Island, and he should have some connection with that island. Point 0. The battlefield should be there. See you later, Kaido. Hang up the phone right there. Kaido looked at the phone bug in his hand calmly, then suddenly grinned. What's wrong? The little head hanging upside down in front of him blinked. Ooh. Kaido tore off his daughter who was lying on top of his head. Since the Valley of the Gods back then, the world's top war is about to start. Yamato, let's go. To meet this war. The white-haired little girl was still a little confused. This poor country, even after decades, still hasn't changed much. Let's go and meet these great priests and knights. How many years have not been back? But her father was laughing, and she also grinned foolishly, revealing the little white fang that was missing a few. The place where the storms gradually began to gather, the back of the new world, the small and poor country of Sphinx. So, is this country under control too? 5.7 barren fields, rubbish everywhere. This country is already so poor and dilapidated, why do you want to attack it? But Marco, who was familiar with him, knew that his father was already angry. It's still the same here, nothing has changed. Whitebeard's complexion didn't change much. Whitebeard held a huge naginata in his hand, and looked at the familiar but unfamiliar scene in front of him with complicated eyes. The priests and sun knights of the Illuminati have entered all the countries in this sea area a few days ago. After the ship stopped, the boards were lowered, and the members of the Whitebeard pirates followed Whitebeard and landed slowly. Sphinx Island. Marco, who was following Whitebeard, said softly, without exception, they used force to either coerce or directly subvert the regimes of all countries in the shortest possible time, and then began to preach. Then go full speed ahead. The whale-shaped ship was approaching quickly and docked directly on the coast of the island. After all, this country doesn't even have a decent port. Chapter 212 Whitebeard and the Priests. Whitebeard hadn't been to the island for decades. Even if he sends a lot of wealth back every year, he didn't want his relationship with the island to be exposed. Although he was already one of the most famous pirates in the sea, even after Roger's death, this one can be removed. But in this sea, his enemies are too many. Many people don't have the courage to fight him directly, but the courage to wreak havoc on this impoverished island related to him may be very large. Not to mention there is Marine. If Marine knew about this, he would definitely regard this as his weakness. Then this innocent island will be implicated. Whitebeard had always thought so. So what he did for his hometown was to send a lot of wealth back every year, and at the same time clean up the pirates in the nearby waters. But this time he had to do it himself. The indiscriminate expansion of the Illuminati and the Sun Knights made this barren island a target as well. Whitebeard can't stand the fact that the home he's been protecting has finally become the domain of the Illuminati. Although he hasn't been back for many years, Whitebeard is still quite familiar with this country. After turning over a mountain on the coast, a dilapidated town appeared in front of the Whitebeard pirates. Low buildings, dilapidated houses, plainly dressed people. Everything is telling, this is a pretty barren country. The Whitebeard pirates entered the town, which of course caused a shock. Even such a poor and backward country knows about Whitebeard and his Whitebeard pirates. Marco went to someone to ask about the current situation in this country. The king is under the control of the Sun Knights. He said solemnly, now the priests have started preaching in the capital. However, there is good news. There are not many Sun Knights who came to the Sphinx, and they are not great guys. None of the Knights of God came. Whitebeard nodded slightly, but if we make a move next, the opponent will not be able to turn a blind eye. 1. Foil Vista's voice was not relaxed. I am afraid that what we will face is their all-out crusade. Everyone's expressions became serious. As members of the Whitebeard pirates, of course they will not be afraid of any enemy. But the Illuminati and the Order of the Sun are not the same. Their strength is well known, and even the world government dare not attack them easily. Let's go, head to the capital, Whitebeard ordered. No matter what kind of enemy they are, they can't stop them from advancing at this time. In this way, with some mixed feelings, the Whitebeard pirates arrived in the royal capital of this country soon. It is said to be a royal capital, but it is actually a slightly larger town. Still the same dilapidated decay. It's just that when the Whitebeard pirates entered the town, they realized that they didn't meet any civilians along the way. So much so that their arrival hardly caused any waves. Whitebeard's face turned a little ugly. Could it be because those guys are up to something nasty? Observation hockey expanded instantly, and the breath of the whole city was reflected in my heart. Whitebeard instantly noticed that a large number of people had gathered in one place, which was in the center of the town, where the camp should be located. Without any hesitation, Whitebeard immediately led his sons and daughters over there. Then when they came to the center of the town, what they saw was people who were almost lined up in a long queue. Marco. Confused by the sight, Whitebeard spoke up. In the next second, Marco turned into a big blue bird, spreading his wings and flying into the sky. When he saw clearly the scene at the front of the queue, he blinked in astonishment. At the forefront of the queue are the priests in white robes, their hands released yellow flames, and these flames covered the residents. Of course Marco is not ignorant, he certainly knows that the priests of the Illuminati have a special healing flame, and the effect is even higher than his phoenix fire. Are these priests treating the people? Who? With this outcropping, he has already been discovered. A few Sun Knights flapping their wings of flames were already approaching quickly. However, after seeing Marco's appearance clearly, and seeing the Whitebeard pirates on the ground below, the progress of these Sun Knights stopped instantly. The Whitebeard pirates. The Sun Knights couldn't help but exclaimed. Although almost all of the Sun Knights were born on Sky Island, at this time, of course, they will no longer be ignorant of the influential figures on the sea. Of course they still know about the Whitebeard pirate group, which is almost considered the strongest pirate group in the New World. How did this group of people appear here? If you have to ask for trouble, shouldn't you go to the Hive Island and go directly to Lord God Tier? Why did you come to this unremarkable place like the Sphinx? Notify God Tier officer. A Sun Knight has roared, it's the Whitebeard pirates. The priests who were treating the people in the rear froze for a moment, then their expressions changed instantly and they had already pulled out the phone bug. Whitebeard frowned, and the terrifying aura spewed out like the roar of a giant dragon. A skilled Conqueror's hockey user can control the target of the Conqueror's attack at will. So when the people of this city had no idea what was going on, the Sun Knight flying in the sky 640, and the priests who were controlling the healing fire at the rear rolled their eyes and vomited unconsciously. Their strength is of course undoubtedly strong, even looking at the New World, they are definitely not something that ordinary pirates can provoke. But unfortunately, standing in front of them at this time is Whitebeard, who has been called the strongest man in the world for a long time. When he went all out to inspire the conquerors, the Sun Knights and priests couldn't parry at all. The battle was over in the blink of an eye. Dad, what should we do with these guys? Marco fell from the sky, he looked at the Sun Knights who fell in front of them, is it right? Don't want. At this time, the forwards were queuing up. A man seemed to have heard Marco's words. He turned around and almost screamed, don't hurt them. Please. What? Marco frowned. It seemed that the man's body was trembling because of fear, but even though he was trembling, he still tried his best to say loudly, they said they would treat us, my wife needs treatment. Whitebeard froze for a moment. And, the man seemed to muster up his courage, the adults of the Sun Knight also said that they will protect us from the pirates. Whitebeard was silent. Chapter 213 Whitebeard and Mahad. Bakudo 77. Sphinx Island. Because he was too tall, he couldn't find a suitable chair for a while, so Whitebeard, who could only sit on a table, frowned. In front of him, Marco, the number 2 of the Whitebeard pirates, was talking with a complicated expression. As soon as they came to this island, they started to take action, greatly reducing taxes, and carrying out compulsory treatment activities, and at the same time promised to protect the island from any foreign pirates. No looting, no destruction, no killing. Marco scratched the hair on the top of his head, making the already messy pineapple head even more messy. It's hard to say about other places, at least here, in this royal capital, the people are quite convinced of them. After all, it is often difficult for people living in this poor and backward country to be healthy. In just a few days, people in the Great Emperor have been cured because of them. So, Foil Vista also scratched his face, we who originally wanted to uphold justice have now become big villains instead. Marco nodded helplessly. Now the people of this city have a lot of opinions on them. The Illuminati did not bring any loss to the country, rather the opposite. Now, instead, they are the pirates who brought down the priests of the Illuminati and the Sun Knights as soon as they came, and have become the objects of fear by the people. Whitebeard's mood was delicate. Originally, he wanted to save his hometown, but now it seems that the situation is different from what he expected. Not to mention being sincerely welcomed by the people in his hometown, but now he has become a feared invader. The Illuminati. After a moment of silence, Whitebeard asked slowly, is it the same in other sea areas? Marco thought about it for a while, it's too detailed, but judging from the situation reported in the newspaper, the countries they ruled seem to be doing well now. Exclude the factors of world government splashing dirty water. The country ruled by the Illuminati has neither exorbitant taxes nor reckless princes and nobles, and even pirates will be blocked by them from outside the border. No matter how you look at it, it doesn't look like hell on earth. Dahai's evaluation of that area seems to be that the god of the sun is not very interested in wealth and power. Quote. Marco continued, he is only interested in belief, and it seems that he really regards himself as a god. Whitebeard was lost in thought. As for the reasons for thinking, that is of course a. Isn't it nice to see it this way? Among the Whitebeard pirates, a little black fat man suddenly spoke out, and he smiled honestly, isn't it not bad to be able to get protection without paying the heavenly gold, and even enjoy the treatment of the priests? The Whitebeard pirates fell into silence for an instant. What the little black fat man said and thought was also something that they suddenly realized in their hearts at this moment. Isn't it good? Most of the countries that can't pay the heavenly money and can't become the member countries of the world government can only be reduced to a hell on earth where criminals such as pirates and human traffickers ravage. But now you only need to believe in that god, and you can get protection and medical treatment without paying anything else. Is there a more lucrative deal than this? Even Whitebeard hesitated. Running back from thousands of miles to rescue his own country, this behavior now seems unnecessary at all. Wake up those guys. Whitebeard finally made a decision. Yes, father. Marco nodded, ready to wake up the captured priests and Sun Knights. In the crowd, the little black fat man let out a long sigh of relief. If you start a war with the Illuminati now, it will be over. How could it have been won? Even the invincible old man will never be able to defeat the god of the sun and his knights of God. That's fine now. The Sun Knights and priests were quickly awakened. Lousy wants to talk to your superiors. Whitebeard threw the phone bug directly at them. The Sun Knight who received the call bug was still a little unresponsive. But immediately, he grabbed the phone bug, don't regret it. Even Whitebeard, known as the strongest man in the world, would never be able to defeat Lord God Tier. So soon Mahad, who was far away on the Hive Island, received the communication. You are the god-tier officer of the Illuminati, the guy called Mahad, right? Mahad froze for a moment, then immediately frowned. What are you? He was able to get his subordinate's phone bug. Hoo la la la, we should have met once in the offshore of Wano Kuni. That's what the man on the phone said. Mahad immediately realized who he was talking to. Whitebeard. Mahad's voice turned cold. What does this mean? Are you attacking my subordinates? Lousy just wanted to chat with you guys. Whitebeard didn't care. What do you do with the islands you occupy? What? Mahad was a little surprised. This guy called himself just to ask this. Wrong. Since he will ask this question, it means that among the islands covered by this expansion, there must be someone Whitebeard is very concerned about. Mahad immediately gave the most appropriate answer. All our actions are just to spread the light of the sun, so that more people can bathe in the light of God. God will have his followers, and bring peace and joy to all the places where the light shines. The man on the phone bug was a little silent. You better remember what you said. After leaving such a sentence, the phone over there hung up. Mahad frowned, and he made no attempt to fight back. At such times, you can only ask God for help. Mahad immediately made a phone call to God's island. Is there such a thing? Island of the gods, Dulin smiled. Then, let me see where they are. How to find out where Whitebeard is Joudas. That is of course a question about the Sun Knights and priests captured by the Whitebeard pirates. Of course, the captives cannot use the phone bug to communicate, and Dulin's control cannot realize remote communication with his subordinates. But Dulin has mastered new abilities. 77 of Bakudo, the sky is so empty. Exploration and learning superimposed the two abilities. Dulin's Kido attainment has been so strong that it is outrageous. Even without chanting, Bakudo's intensity is equally strong to an exaggerated level. As for Bakudo on the 77th, the ability possessed by Tien Kongluo is to perceive the target Reiatsu, and communicate with the target at a distance. At this time, Dulin does not need to perceive the target fire at all, and can directly provide the location. He directly initiated a reading to all the Sun Knights and priests in New World. Where is the Whitebeard pirates cold? At this moment, all the Sun Knights and priests heard the voice of God. Chapter 214 Strong Enemy Attacks. Sphinx. Whitebeard hung up the phone and threw the phone to the Sun Knights surrounded by Whitebeard pirates. So be it. The man stood up and shook his head. There is no need to interfere with the affairs of this island. He can't protect the island properly, so leave it to someone who can. Anyway, from the current point of view, the Illuminati really has no bad intentions. They neither exorbitantly imposed taxes, nor did they do whatever they wanted, but instead brought stability and tranquility to all the countries they occupied. It doesn't seem like a bad thing to hand over the Sphinx to them. Whitebeard certainly doesn't consider the Illuminati a friend. After all, his sworn brother Kazuki Odin died at the hands of the sun god worshipped by the Illuminati and Bullet. Although it has been mentioned for a long time, Whitebeard has never forgotten it. One day, there will be revenge for Odin, the thought never left Whitebeard's mind. However, this does not prevent the Sphinx from being protected by the Illuminati. At least let this country enjoy a period of tranquility and peace before taking revenge. Let's go back, Whitebeard exclaimed. Yes, all the sons and daughters responded in unison. In fact, at this time, many people breathed a sigh of relief. No one has forgotten that in Wano Kuni's 163 offshore, their entire pirate group was repelled by the two opponents, and even fled in embarrassment after being chased. If you really want to confront each other head-on, I'm afraid it's very difficult to have a chance of winning. But it was at this time, when the Whitebeard pirates were about to retreat. The Sun Knights who were captured and fell to the ground were suddenly startled at the same time. Then in the next second, wild smiles appeared on their faces. God God! Suddenly they shouted loudly. While shouting at the same time, they bent their knees, and their foreheads kept falling towards the ground. The force they used was so great that cracks were smashed into the ground by them, and blood oozed from their foreheads. Marco turned around in surprise. What's going on with these guys? Did they suddenly go crazy? What are you shouting all of a sudden? This scene looks very intrusive. Sphinx. The Sun Knights chanted. Great God, the Whitebeard pirates are on the Sphinx. What? Foil Vista also frowned. Who are they talking to? What the hell is going on? This catty, weird situation even made everyone in the Whitebeard pirates feel uneasy. Island of Gods. Oh, is it at the Sphinx? Dulin cut off the communication of others, only kept the few people who reported their location to him. But he didn't know where the Sphinx was. This name is somewhat familiar, but I forgot where I heard it, and now I don't have a chart at hand, so I can't determine the location at all. But it doesn't matter, and there is no need to determine the detailed location at all. The fire carried in the bodies of the Sun Knights and priests had already reported the coordinates to Dulin. Since it's the Whitebeard pirates, let's take it a little bit seriously. Dulin smiled. Overrun mode. Start up, Sphinx. The Whitebeard pirates were a little confused by the strange behavior of the Sun Knight and the priests. But it doesn't matter, let's go back. However, it is this time. Around those Sun Knights and priests, people suddenly appeared one after another. Do you want to go back now? Whitebeard turned around abruptly. When? Even he didn't realize it. Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates looked back. The first thing that caught their eyes was a man in a black robe and a black pointed hat on his head. Everyone knows him. Illuminati god tier officer, Mahad. So what's going on now? Standing next to Mahad was Black Thunder Enel, who was completely naked from the waist up. He twisted his neck and looked at the Whitebeard pirates with gradually excited eyes. So, did God send us here just to deal with these guys? Hey. Whitebeard pirates. Next to it is the tall Moria. This war is coming sooner than I thought. The strongest man in the world. On the other side is Yoroj, who was equally tall. He looked at Whitebeard with burning eyes. Of course, this title can only belong to God anyway. How can a mortal deserve to be called the strongest? In addition to them, there is also a group of Sun Knights who appear here together. Hey, what the hell is going on here? Marco was almost dumbfounded. How did this group of people appear in such an instant? If they were lying in ambush here from the beginning, they should have appeared long ago. And judging from the phone call just now, they should be completely unaware of what happened here. So what the hell is going on here? Could it be that everyone is the demon fruit power of the space system? Everyone in the Whitebeard pirates fell into consternation. Then after the astonishment, there is deep fear. Although the white dragon girl did not appear, there is one more Moria. At this moment, their combat strength gathered here is still terrifyingly strong. Even Whitebeard's brows were already tightly furrowed. Do not worry. At this time Mahad said, don't rush to fight, Whitebeard, judging by your attitude just now, you don't mean to fight us, do you? Do not misunderstand. Whitebeard sneered, of course we can only be enemies. You don't think we just forget about Odin, do you? As that's so, Mahad nodded slightly. At the same time, on the sea not far from the Sphinx, a mighty large fleet is coming fast. The ships in this fleet visible to the naked eye have two distinct characteristics. Some sea ships are decorated like candy ships from fairy tales, with various sweet colors and a lot of candy accessories. The decorations of other sea ships are much rougher, with all kinds of animal bones and all kinds of ferocious horns. On the deck of one of the large ships, two monsters stood side by side. Are you sure that damned old man Whitebeard is on this island? The giant man with horns on his head, Kaido of the Beast, said calmly. Certainly. Beside him is Charlotte Linlin. The woman grinned. I guess we've already started fighting with that group of people. In addition, Marine's fleet has already set off, and it is estimated that it has already arrived nearby. Hey, then let's start quickly. The world's top war. Chapter 215. The chaos begins. Also off the coast of Sphinx, but in another direction, a marine warship is also galloping. Yes, there was only one ship, and it was too small to be called a big ship at all. But at this time, the people who came on this ship were not simple. The man standing at the front is wearing a red vest, which is fully supported by his muscular muscles, and is covered with a coat of justice. The hairstyle is a high-spirited Mohegan area. If anyone with a little knowledge in the world saw him standing on this boat at this time, he would be stunned in shock for an instant. Because the man's name is Kong. His job title is Naval Headquarters Marshal. Command all Marines. The man who was supposed to stay in Naval Headquarters to control the overall situation actually appeared here. This is indeed something that makes people feel incomprehensible. It's only natural for the admirals to charge forward, but shouldn't the marshal be in command from the rear? The guy standing side by side with Kong is not simple either. He wraps his body in a long robe and wears a mask to hide his identity. Not many people know the identity of this guy in the sea, but for those who know the inside story, his appearance here is even more shocking than Marshal Marine himself. This guy is the supreme commander of the CPU, the highest point of the organization with the strongest shield known as Celestial Dragons. To some extent, his internal status in the world government is even higher than that of the Marine Element Master. Marshal Marine still has a precedent of taking the initiative to attack, but the leader of the CPO, generally speaking, will only be stationed in Mariajoy to protect the Celestial Dragons. He actually appeared here. No matter how you look at it, it's unbelievable. The two leaders have already personally dispatched, and of course there will be many subordinates following them. In the rear, standing tall are the two pillars of Marine, the hero Garp and the Black Arm Zephyr. Next to the two, stand the three future stars of Marine. Kuzan, Sakazuki, Pelusolino. Last but not least, Vice Admiral from Naval Headquarters. On the side, there is a group of CPOs wearing white robes like the leader. Of course they are not ordinary CPO agents, just like the Marines. The weakest on the Marine side is Vice Admiral. The level of cadres. There are no lower-ranking members on this ship. Ordinary fighters are useless at all, and I am afraid that even the enemy's conquerors cannot withstand it. Therefore, it is enough to just let the strong come over. Undoubtedly, both Marine and CPO are at their best, and all the forces that can be mobilized at this time have been mobilized without any reservations. What is carried on this small ship is the power of most of the world government. However, among this group of people, there is a special character. To gather such power unexpectedly, do you want to take the opportunity to crusade against God? Mixed in the queue of CPO, Stussy's mind was floating. But I couldn't find a chance to inform God. The boat was too small, even for a rest, several people would squeeze into one room. Given the level of vigilance of the agents, there was no suitable opportunity. Even when you go to the toilet, you have to worry about whether someone will eavesdrop. Again, the boat is too small. God, what am I supposed to do? Stussy has already gritted his teeth secretly. If he still can't find a chance later, then, even if he is risking exposure, he must pass this news to God. It doesn't matter if you die. Sphinx. The atmosphere between the two groups was completely tense at this time. The thunder light on Enel's body has already started to jump. Yoroj and Moria are also gearing up. I'm afraid this battle will not be easy. Foil Vista has slowly pulled out the sword from his waist. Anyway, Marco wiped his nose, now we can't run away. Although there was no idea of fighting this group of people before, but now that they have come to the door, it is impossible to turn a blind eye. The man in the black robe in front of him is the one who repelled them at Wano Kuni. Odin's death must have something to do with him, so how can he retreat safely? Marco looked at the back of his father standing in front of him. The thing about Wano Kuni back then. The man known as the strongest man in the world said slowly, although there is no way to make a complete end right now. But at least, let's say sorry for Odin first. What a pity, I thought you would have the opportunity to bask in the radiance of God. Mahad was very calm. Ordinary people would have been terrified to hear Whitebeard say that, but Mahad didn't even change his tone. 0 for flowers. I hope you don't regret this decision in the future. Say something stupid. The naginata in Whitebeard's hand had already stamped on the ground, and in an instant, the whole town was shaking, even the whole island was trembling. Who do you think Lousy is? Mahad nodded lightly. Since the reason for contacting me just now is for this country, then please agree to my next request. So he said, place the battlefield in the wilderness beyond this town. Don't bring havoc to this town. The purpose of their coming here is to allow people in this country to bathe in the light of the sun, not to bring them destruction. Whitebeard paused. Then he nodded slightly. He certainly didn't want his hometown to be destroyed by the aftermath of the battle. Enel smiled strangely, and appeared directly behind Whitebeard in the next moment. Discharge. Yeah ha ha ha, can we finally start? Ooh-hoo. His body soared straight up, turning into a huge green dragon, and then the clouds fell down. I walked all the way to the wilderness far away from the town, and deliberately found a place that didn't even have a village nearby. The monster was laughing, I can already hear it. The agitation for war. Little devil, now is not the time for you to be presumptuous. The black thunder has bloomed in an instant. At the same time, Marco has turned into a big blue bird and is already flying towards Mahad. All ships are rolled up. So the two parties actually walked out along the streets of the town silently like this. The air suddenly began to tremble violently. Enel's expression was slightly astonished, and his body was directly shaken into a thunderstorm. Speed up, she. In this way, you can let go of your hands and feet for a big fight. The scale is so large that it will directly cover the entire Whitebeard pirate group. With the strength of both of them, once they let go of their hands and feet to fight, let alone this town, maybe the entire island will be affected. At the same time, the fleet with a very different style has sailed to the coast of the Sphinx. Go to start in this instant. Chapter 216 Fierce Battle. Intruder Monsters. The blue flying bird came oncoming. Phoenix Seal. Marco's speed was astonishingly fast, and the flames wrapped around his body were pulled into a straight line of fire. The sharp right claw wrapped around the mighty hockey, and he kicked towards Mahad like a cannonball. Mahad didn't even move, because a black shadow stood in front of him in the next instant. Hey, it's not good to attack the general as soon as you come up. Yoroge laughed loudly and spread his arms out, facing Marco's attack with his chest upright, but green flames were already wrapped around his body. Marco wrinkled his head slightly, but he didn't hesitate too much. Since he couldn't attack the god-tier officer, then this guy is the same. The sharp claws pierced directly into Yoroge's chest in the next instant, and then kicked the man's chest into a depression without any reduction. Marco even heard the clearly audible sound of bone cracking. 380. In the next second, Yoroge was already flying backwards like a cannonball, and even because of its high speed, it caused sonic boom clouds round after round. Mahad turned sideways slightly, and he avoided him perfectly. Then Yoroge flew directly to the back of the wilderness smoothly, and crashed a hill. Marco's expression didn't look relaxed. Masochist Yoroge, that's the nickname Marine gave him. That man has the ability to take damage and grow stronger. Could the blow just now knock him down completely? Of course it is not enough. Ha 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 ha. Almost at the moment when the mountain collapsed, accompanied by wild laughter, Yoroge, who was obviously bigger than before, soared into the air with wings of flames. Amazing. Come again. He flew straight towards Marco. Is there any stronger attack? Marco's eyes have become extremely dignified. The injury on this guy's chest has almost healed. This terrifying recovery ability is even close to his phoenix fruit. And this guy can continue to strengthen himself when he is taking damage. I'm afraid I can't beat this guy. Such a thought appeared in Marco's mind. After all, he is not the phoenix who specializes in high-end games 20 years later. He is only in his 20s this year, and has not yet reached his peak. On the other side, at the moment Whitebeard was shaken into lightning, a large number of attacks had already bombarded Enel, who had turned into lightning. But Enel's reaction is faster, and Thunder's movement speed is faster. Just in the next second, others had already appeared in the sky. Wan Lei. The black thunder all over the sky has been pouring down like a torrential rain. Get back. Whitebeard raised his head slightly, a translucent halo suddenly appeared above his right fist. The right fist bombarded upwards, and the air instantly shattered. The majestic shock wave directly crushed the thunder that fell from the sky. Hey hee 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 hee. Shadowlands. Moria laughed out loud. Starting from the bottom of his feet, the black shadow spread like a sea tide, covering the entire area in the blink of an eye. What? The little black fat man couldn't help exclaiming, what's the matter with this guy's ability? Isn't this guy an ability user of shadow fruit? How come it looks so close to dark fruit? Before he could figure out what was going on, the shadows had already started to spew upwards. A large number of shadows turned into tentacles, waving their fingers to bind the members of the Whitebeard pirates. The members of the Whitebeard pirates had no time to react, and most of them were already trapped in the next instant. Hey hee 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 hee. How about traveling in the shadows? The shadow tentacles that bound the members of the Whitebeard pirates dragged their bodies and began to sink down, trying to drag them into the world of shadows. Are you kidding me? Diamond Chow's roared, and his fists hit the ground heavily. His strength was already astonishing, and he was instantly smashed to pieces by him. Even this shadow region began to fall apart. The foil Vista took the opportunity to jump up, and when the two swords swung, slashing like petals flying, those twisted tentacles began to break one after another. Shadow Core. With Moria's low cry, a large number of shadow soldiers have stretched out from the shadows, brandishing their weapons and killing the members of the Whitebeard pirates. Fight. Prepare to fight. Yizang, who was dressed like a geisha, blasted several shadow soldiers with 2 consecutive shots, loudly reminding the surrounding partners. No need for his reminder, the members of the Whitebeard pirates have already started to fight back. A large number of shadow soldiers were smashed to pieces. However, these broken shadow soldiers were reassembled in the next instant. Moreover, in the next second, a tall figure appeared directly in the queue of the Whitebeard pirates. Point 0. Shadow gathering place. A large number of shadows fell into Moria's mouth, and his body had already expanded in the blink of an eye. Hey hee hee hee. The body is covered with black shadows and hockey, and the huge fist has already smashed down in the air. Boom. The ground shattered, and a large number of members of the Whitebeard pirates were shaken and flew backwards like shells. And the unlucky one who was hit directly turned into meat sauce at this moment. B************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************* anger in his eyes could not be concealed like a volcanic eruption. But before he could make a move on Moria, the magic circle of the six-pointed star had already emerged from his waist, and chains also protruded from the surrounding void, blocking him like a lion majesty. FK lousy. Shock. The air is shaking violently. The dense cracks centered on Whitebeard and spread in all directions. The magic circle of the six-pointed star is shattering, and the chains like lion majesty are shaken by the shock waves and cannot be approached at all. Black explosion destroyer magician. A pitch-black sphere is already approaching. Whitebeard suddenly raised the naginata in his hand, and the shock wave and the two-color hockey wrapped around it at the same time. Then, swing the knife. Boom. The terrifying fluctuation turned into a gust of wind that swept everything. Whitebeard is aware of this. Much stronger than the last time we played against Wano Kuni. Mahad looked up in surprise. Mahad was already flying into the air on the back of the cursed dragon. Whitebeard also looked back in astonishment, and he felt it too. The fireworks 0.5 soaring into the sky and the smoke formed a huge mushroom cloud, which almost disappeared into the cloud. It looks very lively. How about let us come and have fun together? This guy. Ooh. In an instant, the earth collapsed into a huge hole. Many members of the Whitebeard pirates couldn't even control their bodies and were blown away. The oncoming wind blows Whitebeard's coat on his shoulders shaking constantly, and the long golden hair under the captain's cap is also fluttering with the wind. As the smoke cleared, Whitebeard looked up. The two commanders are about to start a real confrontation. A huge green dragon soars up into the sky, and behind him are large ships supported by clouds. He saw something unexpected, but it is this time. Chapter 217 Make a scene. The originally chaotic battlefield immediately quieted down. Whether it was the Sun Knights and the priests, or the pirates of the Whitebeard pirates, everyone looked up at the sky in astonishment. Kaido, Marco, who was fighting with Yoroge, looked up at the cyan dragon flying towards the sky wrapped in clouds in astonishment. Why did this guy appear here? Could it be possible? Marco reacted immediately. Beasts pirates and the Sun God also have enmity. The Beasts pirates were kicked out of Wano Kuni by that guy and his men. So, now it's Kaido who got the message and came to mess things up. However, although it is a spoiler, it is not necessarily a bad thing. After all, it goes without saying that Kaido's goal must be the Illuminati. In a way, they are in the same camp. This is really, I didn't expect Kaido to become a reinforcement one day. The corner of Marco's mouth couldn't help but twitch. In this battle, their Whitebeard pirates have already fallen into a disadvantage. Judging from the abilities of these knights of gods who suddenly appeared here, even if they exploded here and defeated the enemy in front of them, I'm afraid the god of the sun will suddenly appear in the blink of an eye, right? That would be the end of it. However, it's different with Kaido to disrupt the situation. However, when Marco's champagne was half opened, a woman riding on Wei Duo's back flew towards the big boat wrapped in clouds behind the cyan dragon. Although he looked old, but still had a bright smile on his face with heavy makeup. Mom. That's right. Let's play together and see how it goes. Charlotte Linlin, Yoroge, who hadn't had time to swell in size, scratched his hair. Two monsters came hand in hand. In addition to Whitebeard's words, after the destruction of Akoku, New World's top pirates have gathered here at the same time. And of course, they are enemies. Where's that guy? After Qinglong flew to a relatively close position, the clouds sank and put all the large ships on the ground. At the same time, a large number of pirates have emerged from these ships. You don't need to distinguish carefully, you can already see a large number of famous big pirates from among these people. Those are the executives of the Beasts pirates and Big Mom pirates. These two pirate groups also came out in full force. It seems that they are already extremely afraid of the Illuminati and the Sun God, and they are absolutely not allowed to continue to expand in New World. In this case, there seems to be no reason to fail this time. Marco was still a little dazed at this moment, never thinking that such a thing would happen. Does this mean that the Rock's pirate is resurrected? Mahad looked at Kaido, who was floating in the air, flying toward the clouds with his claws, and frowned slightly. Are they coming towards us? Ooh, what kind of onion are you? Kaido's attitude can be called arrogant. He didn't even want to look at Mahad directly. Where is your god? Where is that guy? The shame of Wano Kuni back then, now it's time to wash away. I see, do you want to fight God? Mahad nodded lightly. If that's the case, then let me contact God. Don't worry about this matter, let's talk about it after the battle here is over. The Cyan Dragon's head was raised slightly, and the next moment, the fiery breath was rushing towards Mahad. Of course he would not give this group another chance to call for reinforcements. The guys gathered here are already difficult enough, let's break them one by one first. Holy Shield. Mirror Force. One trick is eaten all over the world. The spherical protective cover instantly wrapped Mahad and the cursed dragon under his feet, and the flames howled. Then the next second, the flame was directly bounced back. What? In astonishment, Kaido was directly sent flying by his own flames. Enel. Mahad looked up at the sky slightly and reported the news to God. Quote. Learn. Enel nodded slightly, and in the next moment, he turned into a flash of lightning and disappeared in front of everyone. No one can catch up to his speed. Tisk. Kaido, who escaped from the flames, smacked his lips lightly. Thunderbolt's speed still couldn't catch up. There is no way to stop that guy from tipping off. Enel appeared directly above a certain piece of sky, immediately took out his phone, and dialed towards the Island of Gods. So God immediately got the news here. Oh, how interesting. On the Island of Gods, Dulin has stood up from his throne, there is such a thing. Yes. Enel on the other end of the phone said respectfully, God, we might need some support. Enel has always been rebellious, but even he realized at this time that they are already much inferior to the enemy in terms of combat effectiveness. Since it's already so lively, let's just let it be lively to the end. Dulin smiled like this, and in the next moment, he had already appeared beside Enel. God. Enel bowed respectfully. I am no longer surprised at God's ability to cross thousands of mountains and rivers from the Island of Gods to the Sphinx in an instant. After all, just now, he was also sent directly by God from the Island of God. Let's go. Dulin smiled, and there was something meaningful in the smile. It should be very lively today. In the next second, they had moved their positions again. Dulin was already floating in front of Mahad, flapping his wings lightly. 377 looked down at all the enemies ahead and below. Oh, it's so lively. Dulin said with a smile. At this moment, whether it was Whitebeard standing on the ground, Kaido floating in the sky with a transformed dragon, or Charlotte Linlin riding on the back of a cloud, the expressions on the faces of these three monsters all became solemn at the same time. How the hell did this guy show up? Didn't notice it at all. It wasn't just Dulin who appeared. Kisara, who was still a little dazed, also had a little bit of astonishment on her face, but Bullet immediately became excited. And one last Fram. In this case, all the fighters in the Sun Knights have already arrived. God. The moment Dulin appeared, the Knights of God, the Sun Knights and the priests knelt down on one knee at the same time, respectfully kneeling in front of their gods. God. So the enemy is these guys. Even though he had just arrived on this battlefield, Bullet immediately understood what the current situation was like. The way he looked at the three of Whitebeard could already be described as crazy. Oh, are you going to fight? The White Dragon girl was so keenly aware of the current situation from Bullet's words that she was immediately excited. Kisara likes to fight. Then let's make a fuss. Dulin said with a smile. I have something to do temporarily tonight, 2 shifts for the time being, and the 2 shifts owed will be made up tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. Chapter 218 Chaos. Girl. What the hell is going on here? Charlotte Linlin had no idea what was going on. How the hell did this guy show up? How did the guys around him show up? Isn't this guy a phantom beast with the ability to manipulate flames? What is going on with this performance now? Could it be that this guy has multiple abilities? Whitebeard and Kaido were more surprised by Bullet than by her. The surprise wasn't that Bullet was here all of a sudden. Rather amazed by Bullet's attitude towards Dulin. He actually knelt down behind that guy, and he actually called that guy a god. Could it be that Bullet is also a knight under the command of the Sun God? Both Whitebeard and Kaido have seen Bullet's strength. It is no exaggeration to say that the guy has already stood at the apex of the sea, and he is a top powerhouse in the true sense. And such a guy actually surrendered to others. Just like that god-tier officer. This guy. Whitebeard and Kaido looked at Dulin. Too young, probably not yet an adult. At this time, Dulin smiled and said, go ahead and do whatever you want. In front of me, show your tombs. Ha 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 ha, I have been looking forward to your words for a long time. Bullet was the first to eject, hitting the ground like a cannonball. Then the Black Sea tide has already spread out at this instant, and the area of Yinjiang has been directly covered in it. What? Even many pirates of the 3 pirate groups were surrounded by this dark tide. Even the ships of the Beasts pirates and Big Mom pirates in the rear have been covered. Then, Bullet growled, listen to my orders. So everything covered by the black tide began to obey his orders. Ships began to dissolve, and the ground began to rise. The huge mountain-like monster stood tall on the ground in just an instant. What's this? Charlotte Linlin, who saw Bullet's ability for the first time, was dumbfounded. But immediately, the corners of her mouth raised. This ability seems to be completely restrained by her ability. However, in the next moment, something happened that caught Charlotte Linlin by surprise. Ah 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 ah. The people covered by the black tide started roaring crazily at this moment, waving their soldiers and slashing towards each other. The fighting has already begun at this moment. What's going on? Kaido couldn't help but widen his eyes, his subordinates seemed to go crazy and started killing each other at this moment. Does the B********** D Bullet's ability still have this effect? What are you doing? Whitebeard couldn't bear it at all, and directly blasted towards the huge monster with all his strength. Your opponent is me. The figure riding the cursed dragon was directly in front of him. Holy shield. Mirror force. So the terrifying shock wave was bounced back again, but Whitebeard was bounced back again and again. Then Kisara's opponent is you. The white dragon girl vibrated the wings of light behind her, pierced through the air in just an instant, and appeared directly in front of Charlotte Linlin. With a flick of his hand, the huge lightsaber has already smashed down in the air. Go away, old lady. Charlotte Linlin snorted coldly, any kind of cat or dog would dare to trouble her. Of course she knew that the white-haired girl in front of her had the strength to compete with that black arm Zephyr. But this does not mean that she will think that the stinky girl in front of her has the power to confront her head-on. With a two-color hockey wrapped around her thick right arm, Charlotte Linlin punched her indifferently. Then, mother. The cloud under her buttocks suddenly let out a scream, leading her to begin to fall rapidly. Charlotte Linlin has realized what happened. Although the white-haired girl in front of me is slender, her strength is unexpectedly strong. Just like a real giant dragon, Leian Zeus can't carry her calendar area at all. Charlotte Linlin was bombarded and fell. Then, Shala had really turned into a white dragon. White jet of destruction. A magnificent beam of light fell from the sky, directly blasting Charlotte Linlin into the ground. Linlin, what are you doing, you idiot? Kaido looked at Charlotte Linlin, who was easily shot down. She was very unhappy girl. Isn't it you B************************************ D, let lousy say that we want to fight together. Why are you so easily deflated now? Kaido. But Kaido has no time to care about other things at this time. The behemoth, which was almost over 1,000 meters tall, fell with a punch. A-hole stuff. Kaido roars, sky torch. Without any hesitation, he directly made a trick. The flames instantly covered his body, and his already huge body swelled into a flame dragon whose size might not be under Bullet's pitch-black giant. Boom! The giant dragon collided with the giant fist, shaking the sky. In the sky above, the clouds split apart. What kind of monster is this guy? Trying to resist the foiled Vista's jaw-dropping attack from the surrounding companions, just like when Papa and Roger were at that time, the sky split open. He. Then, let's continue our battle. Moria also summoned Shadowlands, covering a large area with shadows as well. A large number of shadow soldiers swarmed out of it, attacking all the enemies. There were even a few huge shadow soldiers who looked like giants mixed in. The three pirate groups, which were already in chaos due to Bullet's domination, became even worse at this time. Then, God, please also see my power. Fram has turned into flames and soared into the sky. Flame, bring down judgment. The earliest subordinate of Dulin and the newest member of the Knights of God, Fram shouted frantically and waved his fists simultaneously. Two huge fireballs like the sun fell down. It directly blasted into the queue of Beast's pirates and Big Mom pirates. Flame, devouring everything. A-hole, how dare you act so recklessly? Flapping its pitch-black wings, Jinder of Flame Calamity, transformed into a pterosaur, came roaring. Ha 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 ha, no matter who it is, keep fighting. It was Uroge, he was facing everyone's attacks, laughing and running wildly, and his body was still expanding. Fools who dare to defy the great sun. Enel was suspended above the sky, his eyes had already become a little dazed, all of you will be judged now. The black thunder of judgment has fallen like a torrential rain. Launching a trial, Enel's physical strength will not be depleted too much. Therefore, at this time, all the cadres of the three pirate groups will be judged by thunder. Big Mom pirates, facing the thunder that fell from the sky, Katakuri originally wanted to use his observation haki to avoid it. But it didn't make sense at all, even though he had turned into a rice cake and wanted to dodge Danuos, but the thunder followed him like a shadow, and he was still directly chopped and flew out. The pain that went deep into the bone marrow made Katakuri cry out in pain. He is already like this, and the other cadres of the three pirate groups are even more unbearable. In just an instant, Yinwang's cadres were directly and severely injured by Enel. Then, it was the turn of the Sun Knights transferred by Dulin to attack. A pair of flaming guns fell like a rainstorm, causing a series of violent explosions, and the three strongest pirates in New World were thrown off their feet. Dulin, who was floating in the sky, shook his head lightly. It is indeed at a disadvantage in terms of combat power. But there is no disadvantage to the extent that it is impossible to fight. Buzz. Dulin suddenly heard something special. That was the sound of Conqueror's haki spreading. Don't try to control me. Following the sound, Dulin raised his eyebrows slightly. He saw a little girl with white hair. The Conqueror's haki came from her, and she resisted Bullet's domination. Oh, she is gone. I owe 2 chapters tomorrow and make up the day after tomorrow. Chapter 219 Yamato. The little girl is really young. He looked like he was 8 or 9 years old, and he was wearing a small white kimono. The ends of her white hair faded to a beautiful pale blue, but the most striking thing about her was the 2 little red horns on her forehead. The little girl was out of breath at this moment, the conquerors that erupted from her body just now consumed her physical strength. It was almost unsteady at this point. Fortunately, a few members of the beast's pirates who barely maintained their will were guarding her. Otherwise, she might have been chopped into a meat paste by the members of the beast's pirates who were completely insane and controlled by Bullet. Interesting. The corners of Dulin's mouth curled up slightly. Should it be called Kaido of the beasts? He actually brought his young daughter directly to such a dangerous battlefield. It seemed that she really didn't take her life and death seriously. But it is this time. D thing. Dulin suddenly heard an angry roar. He lowered his head, and a man with an angry face jumped up from the crowd, aiming the gun directly at him. 440 inches atonement to Master Odin. The former retainer of the Kazuki family and the current leader of the Whitebeard pirate team, a man named Izo pulled the trigger angrily, and 2 bullets wrapped around the mighty armament hockey flew towards Dulin. But these 2 bullets didn't even hurt Dulin, they didn't even have the qualifications to hurt him. The flames floating from nowhere directly melted the 2 bullets completely. Yizang gritted his teeth and shot up, pulled the trigger again and again, bullets bombed one after another continuously. Speaking of which, the 2 flintlock guns in his hands are obviously, how did he manage to shoot continuously like a semi-automatic pistol? Dulin thought so. Then as a matter of course, all the falling bullets have been completely resisted by the floating flames. What a headache. Dulin sighed softly, don't you understand such a simple thing? Of course your opponent shouldn't be me. Forget it, since you can't forget the words of the former master no matter what, then I will fulfill you. Dulin raised his right hand. The 4th of Hado, 100 Thunder. The golden thunder shot out from Dulin's fingertips in an instant. Like a laser beam, it pierced directly through Yi Zhang's chest who was caught off guard in the next moment. The power of Hado number 4 is of course negligible, but even so it depends on who is using this move. Dulin's Hado proficiency has reached an exaggerated level, even if he gave up chanting, Hado's power is quite amazing. Not to mention that in this thunderstorm, he also merged into his own flame. The overwhelming power pierced Yizang's heart in a blink of an eye. This man, who has never forgotten his hatred, widened his eyes at this moment, and then collapsed to the ground. What are you D doing? Roaring, several figures rushed towards Dulin again. A beautiful woman with soft blue hair, Witch Dib. A man with blue skin and a huge mouth, Namur the Murloc. A man with dreadlocks swinging a huge chain iron ball, the veteran of the pirates, Rakyo. The man with a strong figure, long hair in a braid at the back of his head, and a man wielding a big knife is also Blenheim, the veteran of the pirates. Dulin shook his head helplessly. Don't you know that king against king, general against general is the main theme of this sea? What a headache. Flame. The flames soaring into the sky turned into a huge beam of light. Spreading from the ground to the sky, the clouds in the sky have completely dissipated, so you can clearly see that this pillar of fire has disappeared directly into the deepest CCCI of this clear sky. Several leaders of the Whitebeard pirates rushing towards Dulin were directly engulfed in flames. The earth is melting, and the clothes of the pirates who were a little closer to the pillar of fire have even burned. A-hole. Enel in the sky was furious instantly, how dare you guys? How dare you insult God? Wan Lei. In the next second, the thunder has fallen like a torrential rain. The flames began to dissipate, and Dulin was still floating in the sky with his old god. But the cadres of several Whitebeard pirates who attacked him have been burned to the ground. What kind of monster is that guy? The man hiding in the biscuit armor, Cracker, the chief officer of the Big Mom pirate ship, has cold sweat on his forehead. Just a little closer, the biscuit armor maid will be on fire. If he appeared in front of him, Ji-Ding would be instantly killed. The enraged Enel no longer cared, unleashing a large number of thunderfalls. Coupled with the help of Bullet and Moria, the members of the 3 pirate groups have already begun to reduce their numbers. Even cadres began to suffer casualties. His Royal Highness Ghost Princess. A member of the beast's pirates screamed. He pushed the small figure away, and he was directly sent flying by the lightning falling from the sky. Her Royal Highness Princess of the beast's pirates raised her head blankly. Before she knew it, there were dead bodies everywhere around her. There is also a sky full of thunder falling towards her. Even though Conquerors has been awakened at this age, such a battlefield is too early for a young girl like her. She is not a great sun god, she is already able to run across the sea when she is about 10 years old. The little girl's eyes widened, and the pitch-black thunder had already fallen towards her. She didn't know what that meant yet, but it didn't stop her from feeling terrified. She had already grasped her 2 little hands tightly, and her eyes were tightly closed together. But at this time, a palm stretched out from the side, easily smashing the falling thunder. Quote. Enel in the sky was taken aback for a moment. On the ground, the little girl realized that nothing had happened, and couldn't help but timidly opened her eyes. Standing in front of her was a big brother who seemed to be emitting an inexplicable light. The little girl blinked blankly. Well, the heavenly palace to see well. Dulin looked at the little girl in front of him. There is no other reason, it's just that I have an extra favor for white hair, and it would be even better if it was red eyes. Moreover, this girl also has the qualifications to become a knight of God. B*********** D stuff. What are you doing? A roar came from above the sky. Chapter 220 Overwhelming Power. Marine Strikes. Dulin raised his head. In the sky, Kaido has returned from his dragon form to a strong dragon man. Wielding a huge mace, it crashed down like a meteorite. Father. The little girl in front of Dulin really looked up at her falling father. It turned out that he didn't care about his daughter at all. Dulin thought so. The relationship between Kaido and her baby girl in the original is a bit weird. To say how much Kaido loves Yamato would be a lie. After all, he would not hesitate to throw Yamato into the cave where the samurai were imprisoned, and he would not give him any food for a month. It was also forbidden for anyone to give Yamato any care, and all those who had a slight relationship with Yamato were directly executed. Not to mention putting serious bomb handcuffs on her. Although Yamato in the original work has some brain problems, it is hard not to say that there is no element of Kaido contributing to the flames. But to say that Kaido really has no affection for his daughter is pure nonsense. Among other things, the moves used by Yamato and Kaido are almost in the same line. Moreover, the skill of Conqueror's winding is definitely not so easy to learn. It's very complicated. There is no one in the world who can face Kaido without being distracted. Even a strong player like Kazuki Oden was directly knocked down by Kaido in a moment of distraction. But the great sun god is certainly not an ordinary person. While distracted thinking about inexplicable things, Dulin raised his right hand. Bakudo's 81, Minister. A translucent wall suddenly crossed the sky, and a golden sun emblem was printed on the wall. Boom. The mace entwined with pitch-black thunder crashed onto the translucent defensive wall. Then, well, Kaido's eyes widened, his arms were shaking violently. Then, he was bounced back. The whole person soared into the sky like a cannonball, and flew into the depths of the sky in a whirl. Kaido, Charlotte Linlin, who was entangled with Kisara, was dumbfounded. I'm so sorry. God, I didn't stop this guy. The fist that was swung by the monster as huge as a mountain range directly sent Kaido flying out of the air after being blasted into the sky. While apologizing loudly, Bullet continued to chase Kaido. The battle of the monsters has also entered the most intense time at this time. The battle between Mahad and Whitebeard is basically a stand-up output. Mahad rode on the back of the cursed dragon, flying above the sky and constantly attacking Whitebeard with magic. Whitebeard continued to use the power of Haki and Shock Fruit to counteract Mahad's magic, but also launched a counterattack towards him. Kisara and Charlotte Linlin fought much more intensely. Kisara has put on silver-white armor, wielding a shining sword of light, and is slashing passionately with Charlotte Linlin. Obviously the body shape is much worse, but Li Wangqi does not look inferior in the slightest. Her lightsaber cut Napoleon, the machete in Charlotte Linlin's hand, screaming. Charlotte Linlin's Horcrux couldn't bear the growing destructive power, and the blade of the big knife had been cut into gaps one after another. Damn it! Charlotte Linlin gritted her teeth. What on earth is this stinky girl's ability? It's not that she didn't create more homies to aid in the battle, but these homies were nothing but paper in front of the light of this stinky girl, and they collapsed in an instant. Only his own mighty Haki can barely hold back her abilities. But even so, Haki is being destroyed. Consumed too fast. Compared with the Battle of Monsters, the Battle of Cadres is not so earth-shattering, but it is still fierce. The number of people on Dulin's side is an absolute disadvantage, but the quality is too high. Both Enel and Moria Yoroge are real powerhouses with strength above Shichibukai. Not to mention Enel, even Admiral in Naval Headquarters can't beat him. Moria and Yoroge are equally tough. Yoroge has already suffered considerable damage in this battle, and his body size has swelled to the extent that it even surpassed the giants. Both defense and power are so powerful that it is jaw-dropping. He just stood forward, which was enough to make the cadres of the three pirate groups feel overwhelmed. Asking for flowers. At this time, the only ones who can still hurt him are Marco Katakuri and Jhin. The same is true for Moria. The open shadow area gave him the ability to appear and disappear, and the shadow absorbed into his body also greatly enhanced his strength. Plus Fram and the Sun Knights he led. Even the cadres who faced the three pirate groups at the same time did not fall into a disadvantage. No one thinks they will lose this time. After all, the great gods haven't made a move yet. The leaders of the three pirate groups almost realized this. When the god of the sun got tired of waiting and was ready to make a move, that was when the situation of the battle was changed instantly. Charlotte Linlin couldn't help gritting her teeth. If this is the case, it seems that the situation is not good. Damn marine bastards, when the hell are they coming? But fortunately, Dulin didn't intend to make a move yet. He stood in front of Yamato and quietly looked down at this curious little girl. Are you your father's enemy? The little girl's eyes widened. Dulin smiled. No, of course not. Dulin stretched out his hand towards Yamato. Follow me to see more magnificent scenery. There is no need to distinguish the direction at all. The roaring sound like the sudden change in the depths of the island is the most obvious guide. Now, is Kaido worthy of being his opponent? Then one after another figures rose into the sky from the deck, leaping toward the interior of the island like lightning. Want to come to my place? What does it mean, isn't it? At the same time, in the offshore of this island, the long-delayed pirate group finally arrived. Apart from the government's Lord I Am, who else in this world can be called his opponent? The little girl tilted her head. Quote. I don't understand what Dulin is talking about at all. There is only one opponent in this world. If it's not the enemy, then why are you fighting to the death now? The little girl didn't have much fear, she tilted her head and blinked at Dulin with big eyes. Chapter 221 Debut. The masters of Marine and CP shot forward like lightning. The weakest among them is the powerhouse of General Marine. Of course, the proficiency of the 6 styles has reached the point of perfection. Everyone is as vigorous as a bird when using moonwalk. The loud noise is getting closer. The battlefield is getting closer and closer. However, neither the Marine nor the CP noticed that in the higher and farther sky behind, a behemoth was also slowly moving towards it. It just moved in the sky, and it already dimmed the sea below like a thick dark cloud. It's just that no one realizes it yet. At this time, on the battlefield not far away, the battle has entered its fiercest moment. The whole battlefield was shaking constantly. It was Whitebeard using his devil fruit power recklessly. However, although his opponent felt the huge pressure, he did not lose because of it. Mahad's vast amount of magic allows him to deal with any situation. The rebound absorption is weakened, and Whitebeard's attacks often have no effect on him at all. But compared with their side, the ones that can be called fierce are of course the hand-to-hand combat between Bullet and Kaido, Kisara and Charlotte Linlin. In the sky, there is a confrontation between giants as huge as mountains and dragons of flames as huge as them. On the ground, it is the passionate exchange of 2 women who are wielding big swords in the same room. On the contrary, the battle on the Kadri's side began to gradually tilt. Yoroj was rampaging in the crowd. No one could harm him at all. On the contrary, he only needed to throw his fists and kicks at will, and the result was like a catastrophe. He is the strongest human shield on Dulin's side. Just standing here is enough to make anyone despair. Not to mention the support of Enel Moria and the Sun Knights. The only ones who can seriously resist are guys like Marco Vista, Diamond Joe, Katakuri, Cracker, and Ember Quinn. But it's a pity that even strong men like them can't touch Yoroj more and more. And the thunder that Enel sprinkled from the sky made all of them avoid it. Even at this time Dulin was still chatting with the little girl. Don't want. Facing Dulin's invitation, the little girl with white hair decisively chose to decline. She rolled her eyes at Dulin. You are my father's enemy. Then you must not be a good person. The corners of Dulin's mouth curled slightly. What he said was like your father is a good man. Refused. Dulin smiled. Unfortunately, no rejection is allowed. Why? The little girl protested loudly. I don't want to listen to you. She quickly tried to escape with her short legs. Although I don't understand why this big brother wanted to save me just now, but since he is my father's enemy, he must have bad intentions for me, right? Yamato isn't exactly smart, but he doesn't lack basic common sense either. But she just ran 2 steps. Duli kept smiling and raised her hand to point at her. The 4th of Bakudo, this rope. A rope made of rays of light flew out of Dulin's hand. In the next second, the little girl who was running away was completely tied up, so that she could only wriggle on the ground like a caterpillar. Wow, what is this? Yamato struggled hard. Her strength is not small. After all, she inherited Kaido's monster and bloodline. But unfortunately, no matter how hard she struggled, she couldn't shake the rope branch of light that bound her. Dulin hooked his fingers, and the rope flew back with the little girl towards him. Unfortunately, my invitation cannot be declined. He smiled. UB******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** beat Dulin, let go of me. I'm going to beat you up. Dulin just patted her on the head lightly, without saying a word. So, it's almost time to end this boring battle. Dulin flapped his wings and flew up, looking around the entire battlefield. It seems that there is no need to continue fighting. However, it is this time. Dulin suddenly turned his head and looked towards a certain direction in the sky. He raised his eyebrows. I thought this place was already lively enough, but there are more lively things. Feeling a lot of breath, it is approaching rapidly at this time. And with Dulin's knowledge, of course, he can clearly perceive that these auras are quite powerful. In fact, Dulin was definitely not the only one who noticed this incident, at least Enel had already turned into lightning and flew to his side in an instant. God, another spoiler is here. Dulin just nodded lightly, don't worry, just take a look. It didn't take too long for one figure after another to fly over from the end of the sky. Now even the dullest person has noticed it. Finally come. The smile on the corner of Charlotte Linlin's mouth could not be suppressed at all. The moment we have been waiting for, the last reinforcements has finally arrived. In this case, they have an absolute upper hand in terms of combat power. Ooh, the interesting things are just beginning now. Kaido was already laughing out loud. The world's most pinnacle war is about to start now. Just thinking about it made Kaido tremble with excitement. It doesn't matter anything else, just the matter of war itself is enough to make him excited. God. Enel's voice became a bit dignified. It's the guy from Marine, led by Marshal Marine himself, and even agents from the CPO came along. The leader seems to be their supreme commander. By the way, that guy Stussy is also there. So, after all, there are too many people, and the world government is almost out of cards. It should be directed at us. Stussy. Since she also came, why didn't she inform her in time? No pressure at all. Dulin nodded slightly. Then I'll go play with them. Just dealing with the enemies here, these knights of his are already a little stretched. Anyway, even if you fall into a disadvantage, you can use Flying Thunder God to return to the Island of Gods at any time. Enel said in a deep voice, I'm afraid it will be difficult to deal with it next. Dulin raised his eyebrows slightly. He had already flapped his wings and flew over there. However, Dulin didn't doubt Stussy's loyalty because of this. After all, Tinder's ability is worth 0.0 to be trusted, probably because he couldn't find an opportunity. Dulin said leisurely. In this case, in the face of the more powerful government expeditionary force, they are afraid that they have absolutely no strength to deal with it. God, I can only ask you to do it yourself. Chapter 222 Outnumbered. Marine. Whitebeard was also caught off guard. Why did Marine come here? He even felt a familiar atmosphere from the group of Marines who rushed over. Garp, Zephyr, Null, these guys actually came here together. Are you kidding me? Is the world government crazy? Just send all the strongest guys in Marine here in one go. So who is guarding naval headquarters now? If a slightly stronger pirate group launches an attack on that island, Marine will probably usher in the most humiliating moment ever. But, after a brief moment of consternation, Whitebeard immediately realized something. Marine is definitely here for the Illuminati group. After all, the threat of this group of people is visible to the naked eye. They have marched towards the whole world, and even the four seas have become their goals. There is no doubt that they have long been a thorn in the side of the world government, and they will never allow this group of people to continue to develop steadily. I'm afraid the world government has already expected this war that will happen. So people 22 have been sent here in advance. If so, then. Whitebeard turned his head to look at Kaido and Charlotte Linlin. The smiles on the two guys' faces were beyond words. They already knew about this. In other words, it was planned that they would appear here, and it was planned together with the world government. In this case, Whitebeard looked at the figure that flew alone towards the Marines' formation. There was a hint of pity in his eyes. What he has to face at this time is the union of the top forces from the two forces of Pirate Marine. Whitebeard sighed inexplicably in his heart. Of course he is not willing to join hands with Marine, but it has to be said that the current situation is indeed the greatest opportunity. A chance to avenge Odin. After going through the battle just now, Whitebeard became clearer that the Whitebeard pirates alone would never be able to defeat this group of people. The gap in strength is a bit exaggerated. I'm afraid the enemy only needs to send a few god knights here, and the Whitebeard pirates will face the worst end. Now is the best chance. Whitebeard let out a slow breath of relief. Then he clenched the naginata in his hand. It doesn't make any sense to think about it now. Let's fight. Only fight. The knights under Dulin's command were also a little flustered at this moment. After all, the enemies they are facing now are too many and too strong. Even if they are as proud as they are, they have to admit that there is already a gap with their opponents in terms of combat power. But when they saw the figure slowly flying towards the enemies who attacked again, all of them smiled enthusiastically. Since God intends to do it himself, then everything will be fine. No matter what kind of enemy you are, you can only bear the bitter fruit of failure in front of God. Everyone is absolutely convinced of this. Because of course God is invincible. Dulin was already flapping his wings slowly at this time, blocking the front of the government expeditionary forces. You guys finally showed up. Marshal Marine, who was running at the forefront with Moonwalk, started roaring the moment he saw Dulin. Dulin smiled at him. This should be our first meeting, Marshal Marine, Kong. Hey, you can still laugh now. Among other things, you really have a knack for putting on airs. Marshal Marine sneered, and he tore off the coat of justice that was draped over his shoulders, and the bulging muscles almost tore through the loose vest on his body. But it doesn't matter. Just today, let us understand all of this. The B*********** D in front of me really brought too much humiliation to Marine. At first in Loguetown, neither Garp nor Sengoku could keep him. Let this B********* D get the world's highest first-time reward in one go. And then there's Ohara. Sengoku is still comatose in class, and Sakazuki and Kuzan were forced to be morons for a year or two. Finally there is Alabasta. Both Gion and Crocodile are still missing. Because of his ambition alone, the whole country fell into extreme chaos. If Pelusolino hadn't happened to break into their existence, then the government would probably still be kept in the dark until now, not aware of their threat at all. Then there was the humiliating war. Marine's expeditionary force was almost wiped out, only Garp Zephyr and Master Rusolino escaped. And the guy in front of him even went to Mariajoy himself and burned the center of the world government to nothing. A large number of celestial dragons died because of him. There is no doubt that he has directly become the most dangerous criminal in the world at that moment. His Excellency Marshal Marine didn't even want to recall what happened after that. Marine has nothing to do with the expansion of the Illuminati. It can only continue to cancel the Marine branch and give up one country after another. Later, even the canal on the upside-down mountain was occupied by the Illuminati, and Marine warships could not pass through it. If you want to travel between four seas and the Grand Line, you can only take the Red Line. This is Marine hero Garp the Fist. Behind the two leaders, a figure flew out angrily. Let's do it directly. In one breath, get rid of this guy. The voice of the CPO leader who was almost burned to death by Dulin in Mariajoy before was also full of joy. You have nowhere to escape. Go against the gods. Why are you talking so much nonsense? And all these shames, today, it is finally time for 070 to completely erase them. Black Arm Zephyr roared and struck out. Sakazuki is right, so why hesitate now? While he was acting, more people had launched a charge at the same time. With an absolute superiority in numbers and combat strength, we must completely defeat the guy in front of us in one go. Facing such menacing approach, Dulin just smiled lightly. With such violent strength, of course Naval Headquarters Vice Admiral will get Sakazuki codenamed Akainu in the future. This is also the greatest shame in his life. Kong ordered, everyone go together, everyone goes all out, don't give this guy any chance. And now, for him, it is also the time to avenge his shame. Then let's go. This guy almost killed 5 elders in front of him and even set the whole of Mariajoy on fire. Chapter 223 Hado 99. That guy is F*********. Charlotte Linlin's voice was full of schadenfreude. Your god is about to have the worst day of his life. That is a dream team led by Garp Zephyr and 3 old bastards, plus the CPO of world government. There is absolutely no one in the sea who can compete. The difference in strength is already too great. The average number of people is of course useless, but when the quality is high enough, the number of people has the power to change everything. And now is that moment. However, to Charlotte Linlin's surprise, the apparently silly girl in front of her just smiled lightly in the face of her provocation. God will never lose. How could God lose? The word God itself represents invincibility and omnipotence. Charlotte Linlin pouted. Just keep your mouth shut, you stinky girl, there will be plenty of time for you to cry later. But now I seem to think about how to get out. Wait until that B**************** D is killed, then you can almost start preparing to retreat. Otherwise, after Marine and CP wiped out this group of people, they would become new targets. This time, the cooperation will only go so far as to defeat this group of people. But it shouldn't be difficult to retreat. After all, this time it's not their big mom pirates acting alone, isn't there Beasts pirates and Whitebeard pirates? The once friendship is now time to come in handy. In the matter of retreat, the 3 parties all have common interests, and of course they can cooperate. While Marine is cleaning up the mess, they can safely evacuate. Charlotte Linlin couldn't help but smile. As expected of me, it was a perfect plan. Use Marine to eliminate the Illuminati gang and their threat to the New World. Anyone else have this brain? It has to be my wife. Are you distracted? At this moment, the huge ball of light has already smashed directly towards Charlotte Linlin. Boom. At the moment when the world government's expeditionary force flew towards Dulin. In fact, there are still people quietly observing the battle here from far away. Almost outside of this island, in the sky, a huge shadow is quietly suspended here. Inside this huge monster, in a certain brightly lit room, the shadow that wrapped himself in a black robe was quietly looking at the screen in front of him. What is shown on the screen is the battle taking place in the distant island. The next thing is to see if Marine and CP can complete their tasks. Behind the black shadow, the bald 5 elders said respectfully, all the combat forces on the surface have gathered here. If you still can't succeed, then I can only rely on you, Lord I am. The black shadow didn't respond in any way, but was still watching quietly. Island. Although Sakazuki was the first to charge, he was not the fastest. A golden flash condensed directly in front of Dulin. Speed is also weight. Pelusolino's voice was as weird as ever, and his right leg, which was flickering with strong light, was whipping towards Lin. He was followed by a huge magma fist that shot out as Sakazuki punched. Facing the joint attack of the 2 alternates Admiral, Dulin just raised his hand casually. Splitting void. The transparent wall resurfaced. 2 loud bangs resounded through the sky at the same time. The brilliant golden light and the splashing magma complement each other. But all of this had nothing to do with Dulin, and the attacks of the 2 couldn't touch him at all. So, what kind of ability is this? The attack failed, but Pelusolino, who was ejected by the reaction force, couldn't help complaining loudly, it's completely incomprehensible. This is not a devil fruit ability at all. How can there be such an unreasonable devil fruit ability? But at this moment, more people are already heading towards the besieged city of Dulin. There are terrified monsters in all directions. Black Arm Zephyr and Hero Garp break through head-on. Marine Yuan and the commander of the CPU are double-teaming from left to right. Behind them were more Marines and CPs who did not leave any room for Dulin to escape. But Dulin didn't intend to run away at all. Flames instantly covered his body, and golden armor appeared on the surface of his body. In just an instant, Dulin has directly entered the Beastman state. Then there is the flame. Overwhelming flames surged out of Dulin's body. The golden flame swept across the entire sky in an instant, swallowing everything around Dulin. Wow, the screaming sounded only for an instant. Because most of the Marine and CP agents were directly burned to ashes in this instant. When Marine and CP are in action, they are already carrying only the elite as much as possible, but it is still not enough. Even Naval Headquarters, Vice Admiral struggled to sustain the flames Dulin unleashed at this point. But it's not like someone who didn't break through the flames. D. At least a few people who came from Dulin's front and left and right sides still resolutely attacked him. Dulin was not surprised by this at all. The simple release of flames is only used to clear the miscellaneous soldiers. If you want to deal with these guys, you have to be more serious. For example, Hado's 99, Tianlong will be destroyed. Dulin's physical strength and flames were drawn at this moment, and finally condensed into 5 flame dragons. The flames turned into beams of light, tearing apart the earth, and harassing the ministers. Dog. What? This move is a bit like Jin's Fire Dragon Emperor. The earth shattered in an instant, and the 4 fire dragons twisted and twisted under the ground like earthworms. This is the top spell even in Hado. The 4 people who came from the double team didn't even have time to react, the 4 fire dragons had already bit them respectively, and then smashed straight to the ground. Sakazuki, Kuzan, and Pelusolino, who had just escaped from the flames, were horrified. The sky became dark because of this, and the island was trembling constantly. Only a ray of light flew up into the sky in an instant, dodging the blow, and the remaining 2 were blasted into the ground by the fire dragon again. Dulin thought so. Then, boom, boom. But before they finished their horror, the remaining fire dragon rushed towards them. It doesn't feel bad, Weedao. But the power is not the same at all. Then, Chapter 224 Cremation with One Knife. Precursor of Crisis. In just an instant, none of the world government expeditionary forces who had come to besiege Dulin aggressively could still float above this sky. Most of the people had been directly burned to ashes in the initial flames, and a small number of truly powerful guys were also directly shot down in the attack just now. Only Dulin, only the great sun god, can still float above this sky leisurely. Such a result directly shocked the pirates on the distant battlefield. Garp, Zephyr, what the hell are you oldies doing? Charlotte Linlin was dumbfounded. What the hell is going on here? What that brat is facing is almost half of the power of the world government. As a result, he had the absolute upper hand in a single meeting. Are all the people sent by the government useless? What the hell are they doing? No way. That B*********** D kid can't really be that strong. It's enough to easily crush the power of most of the world government. How can it be? How could there be such a powerful guy in this world? Charlotte Linlin, who is truly a top powerhouse, knows very well that human beings have limits. Even for a natural monster like her, it is very difficult to become more fishy after this step. Even Captain Whitebeard Roger Rocks, who can be called the strongest guy in the world 480, is only one step closer to her, and there is no qualitative gap between the two sides. But now, the strength shown by this kid is already overwhelming. After all, even Garp, an old B******** D who could stand up to Roger, is now easily driven underground. No way. Won't this war end up slipping in a direction no one expected? Charlotte Linlin couldn't help becoming anxious in her heart. But of course the battle here is not so easy to end. The top powerhouses in this world don't say anything else, they are really fighting against beating. In the huge hole blown out by the 5 swirling dragons of destruction, a group of people alluded to it. The leaders are of course the 4 strongest guys in this operation, Marshal Marine, Garp the Hero, Black Arm Zephyr and the Supreme Commander of the CPO. These 4 people were directly attacked by the 5 swirling dragons of destruction. Even though each of them only endured 1/5 of the force, it still made them rags. Everyone's body is covered with scorched black marks, making them seem to have changed their race in an instant. They are followed by 3 alternates, Admiral. They were several people, CFCF, who together withstood the attack of a flaming dragon, so the situation was actually much better than Garp and the others. The last ones are the CPO cadres and some Marines who barely survived. Even after being hit hard, Marine and CP's fighters still did not stop and charged towards Dulin desperately. But, of course, not without exceptions. Dulin not only has a clear sense of color perception, but also sees clearly with his eyes. Since a certain guy came to this battlefield, he has never initiated a charge at all, and has been shrinking to the back. What an exaggeration. Stussy shrank cautiously on the edge of the battlefield, with a happy smile on her face under the mask. This is the power halo possessed by God. To be able to suppress so many government powerhouses with an absolute advantage, there is no other possibility other than being a god. How can a person possess such terrifying power? Of course, she didn't have the idea of joining the battle from the very beginning. What a joke, how could she be an enemy of God? Of course, she had already found a place to hide at the moment when the group launched a charge. In fact, when she was close to the Sphinx, she found an opportunity to get in touch with God and report this matter to him. But unfortunately the call was not connected. Probably because God had already come to this battlefield at that time, and he had a mobile phone for it. But now it seems that it doesn't matter anymore. There was a frenzy in Stussy's eyes. The power of God is invincible. In the sky, Dulin has once again fallen into the predicament of being besieged. But, the 61 of Bakudo, Yinyuantang. Dulin waved his right hand. There was a sudden burst of light above the sky, and each of the 6 paths light sheets suddenly appeared around the people in the government. Then in the next second, the emerging light sheet tightened, directly binding everyone to the sky. Damn it. At this moment, even the hero Garp's complexion changed drastically. What the hell is going on with this guy? This ability is completely out of touch with Devil Fruit, right? This is totally some kind of magic. But even so, they can feel that the light that binds them is not so strong. As long as they exert their strength, they can break free immediately. However, it is this moment immediately. The flame sword has been drawn out of the void by Dulin. All kinds of buffs were added, and then, Dulin's body completely turned into a flame. Careful. Seeing this scene, the CPO commander who had been attacked before couldn't help screaming, that is an attack that can burn souls. In fact, there is no need for him to remind, the Marines are also very clear about how dangerous Dulin's thing is. After all, Admiral Sengoku is still lying in a hospital bed at this time. All immediately covered Haki on the body to meet. The flame, which turned into an incomparably brilliant slashing flame, has swallowed the entire sky in an instant. The tsunami of flames swept everything, and everyone was swept backwards. Wow, a determined fighter like the hero Garp couldn't help but let out pain at this time. The pain of burning the soul is simply not something humans can bear. Even the firm will be burned to ashes. But even so, even with such pain the hero Garp swims against the current. Fist Bone Meteor. The roaring hockey unexpectedly forcibly blasted a path in the sea of flames. Phi. Splitting Void. Two guys with flames all over their bodies, but their voices are as powerful as a rainbow. Like the front end of a huge blade, raging flames rushed into the sky. Martial Marine. He swings the knife. But it wasn't over yet, two figures suddenly fell from the sky. Dulin raised his head. In the center of the huge monster, the black shadow spoke faintly. Boom. The top leaders of the two major organizations under the world government launched an attack on Dulin at the same time. CP leads. Mr. Kong. The huge blade soared into the sky in an instant. Two colors of red and orange are intertwined. There is no need to continue reading. Black Arm Zephyr, who broke free from the flames and rushed forward, couldn't help but lose his voice. 96 of Hado. Cremation with one knife. The translucent protective wall that suddenly emerged easily blocked the blow. Accept it. Chapter 225 Crisis is coming. Retreat calmly. One knife cremation. Among the Shinigami, the captain who is the most forceful but eats the most turtles used to attack Aizen when Zanpakuto was sealed. This spell is also listed as a forbidden technique in Kido, because the prerequisite for its use is its own scorched body. But of course, this so-called price was directly ignored in front of Guilin's over-limit mode. Without even consuming physical strength, after injecting a large amount of flames that the Phoenix possessed at this time, Dulin used his unique one-knife cremation. The blade formed by the brilliant flames almost rushed to a height of 1,000 meters. The surrounding earth was melting rapidly, and the air began to twist continuously as if scorched. Brother Kong. Black Arm Zephyr roared. The scale is so terrifying, even if you look at it, you can feel the terrifying power of this blow. Even though it's a long distance away, at this moment, I feel like my body is about to be melted. And what has Mr. Kong and the strongest shield who suffered the blow from the front turned into now? Zephyr's heart was beating violently, and his fingers were trembling unconsciously. Ever since he joined Marine, Sora has taken care of him like a real older brother. He, Garp, Sengoku, Suru, the four of them have always called Sora the big brother. However, now work. The blade of flame gradually dissipated. Two figures fell from the sky. Those were two bodies that were almost burnt to carbon. It can be seen that they have tried their best to resist, but it is meaningless. The flames that would burn their souls completely made them lose the power to control their bodies in the first place. After the spiritual level is completely burned, the body can only let the flames burn. As a result, the two supreme commanders of Marine and CP lost their lives completely today. Really weak. Dulin sighed. For him at this moment, the top powerhouses in this sea can only be described by the word vulnerable. A-hole. Zephyr growled. Calm down, Zephyr. But fortunately, right away, the hero Garp stopped him. The muscles on the Marine hero's face were twitching, and their heads were already tightly clenched. Calm down. How can you calm me down? Zephyr roared angrily. Sengoku is still unconscious because of this guy, and now Brother Sora died in front of us again. How can you make me calm down? Then what do you want to do? Garp also roared. Let's make a fearless charge at that guy, and let me see an old friend pass away again. Zephyr fell silent. He was going to ask Garp back. Ask him loudly whether he looks down on himself, and why he thinks he will fail. However, this question can no longer be asked. Can't win. Although it is unbelievable, it is indeed the case, and now there is only one thought in my mind about the enemy in front of me. How is it possible to win over a guy like that? Even Big Brother Kong and the commander of CP were killed in an instant. How could someone of this level be able to win against him? Is he really a god? Dulin watched the interaction between the two with great interest. Really, isn't it a bit too contemptuous? At this time, he actually put aside his self-contained communication there. Since you have all taken the initiative, don't blame me for not talking about martial arts. Dulin raised the flaming sword in his hand. Get rid of these guys in one go today. Dulin looked up suddenly. Shine. Brilliant and huge rays of light flew from the distant sky. Each ray of light is incomparably huge, far exceeding 100 meters in thickness. M is on the move. Dulin immediately realized this matter. The attack that appears here now is launched by the mysterious weapon that destroys the country with one strike in the original work. Subconsciously, he was about to use the fillet technique to take his subordinates away. But immediately he had a new idea. Wouldn't it be too cheap to leave like this world government? Now that he has already launched an attack on himself, of course the next step is to fight back. So, the next moment, flames. Brilliant flames shot out, directly forming an incomparably huge ring of flames in midair. The ring of flames was spinning crazily, and it could be vaguely seen that Tewin was spreading towards the inside. Flying thunder god guides thunder. Dulin whispered. Laugh. The beams of light fell into the ring of flames. That piece of space seemed to have solidified, forming a distorted zone that was gradually swallowing up the incoming light. Ask for flowers. A small group of flames condensed above the ring of flames, and at this moment, rays of light rushed out from the group of flames, and counterattacked towards the place where the original light cannon came. However, the ring of flame absorbs the light too slowly. The light is twisting and expanding. And finally, boom, an extremely terrifying explosion occurred above the sky. The huge ball of light is even bigger than Sphinx Island. Even with the ring of flames absorbing the power of the explosion, the spreading flames and storms swept everything on the island in an instant. Well, Dulin was blown back again and again by the oncoming gust of wind. Not to mention the rest of the island. Even a monster like Kaido Charlotte Linlin couldn't resist the powerful shock wave brought by the explosion, and everyone was blown away. Their side is actually pretty good. The ring of fire that Dulin arranged in the sky absorbed a large part of the power, and what they faced was only the shock wave. The most miserable are the ordinary people in other areas of the Sphinx. They almost faced the explosion in the sky. In just an instant, their lives came to an end. However, Dulin's flying thunder god guide mine was not ineffective, and part of the light was really diverted by him. The huge monster hidden above the sky was shaking. If the attack just now fell on this island, except for him, everyone on the island would probably be wiped out. Dulin shook his head. Interesting. The existence covered in the black robe spoke with great interest. Then what if the power increases again? Master I am. Almost made him really bounce back the attack. Terrible power. Unexpectedly. Much smaller explosions. Far, far away in the sky. Inside the behemoth, the piercing five elders were dumbfounded. So, call it next time. Boom. Even that might not be all his strength. However, there is no chance to continue to increase the power. Flying Thunder God Jr. In an instant, it has traversed the sky and directly bombarded its source. He looked at the king of the world whom he was loyal to. Chapter 226, the song comes to an end. However, at the moment of launching Flying Thunder God, Dulin suddenly remembered something, and he disappeared directly in place. First, use the color of knowledge to determine the direction, then move through the nearby fire carrier, and then fly by with its own speed, and finally reach the destination. The white-haired girl had already fainted at this time, probably because she was blown by the strong wind and bumped her head against a huge rock. A huge gap was made in the stone by her, and she herself had also passed out. Even if she inherited Kaido's monster physique, she is only 8 years old this year after all. Almost forgot about this girl. Dulin is a bit of a collector. Although it doesn't mean that he must collect everything in a frenzy, at least he must not let go of what is in front of him. Pulling the little girl up from the ground, Dulin activated Flying Thunder God again. But this time, all the knights and priests on this island ushered in teleportation together. The scene in front of them changed in the blink of an eye, and they had already returned to the Island of Gods. September 17th. Dulin teleported the ordinary Sun Knights and priests to the square outside the temple. He and the Knights of God were sent directly to the temple. Of course, Yoroj and Maria, the two guys who are completely out of size at this time, can only be placed outside the gate. God, Mahad's clothes were a little messy, and this was the first time Dulin saw him in such a mess. The explosion just now caught him off guard. What happened just now? Mahad was a little terrified. He was very sure that if the explosion just now exploded near the ground or on the ground without any hindrance, he would not be able to stop it. I'm afraid it will be blasted to pieces in an instant. That's what I'm curious about, God. Bullet was also a little apprehensive. What the hell is that? Eager to fight, and never afraid to fight the strong, this is the true portrayal of Bullet. But of course that didn't mean he wanted to die just like that. Even if it is death, it should be a vigorous battle death. If I'm not mistaken, it should be the ultimate weapon of the world government. Dulin sat on the throne and answered lazily. I have used the over-limit mode for a little longer, and now I feel a little dizzy in my head. The ultimate weapon. Yamato's eyes sparkled. It feels amazing. Indeed, that kind of power is a bit too exaggerated. Enel looked solemn. In the final battle, that thing will probably be our biggest obstacle. Even if they follow behind the invincible god, that weapon is a little too dangerous. At least figure out the real body of that thing. Moria has already released the state of the shadow gathering place, and her body has returned to her usual appearance. At this time, she has already walked in respectfully. If you don't have any information, isn't it very passive? Dulin nodded lightly. He looked at someone who was also brought back by him, Stussy. Sorry, great god. Stussy, who was brought back by Dulin, shook his head. That's not a secret that I can touch. I'm afraid only Kailong people know this secret. Moreover, it can't be ordinary celestial dragons, at least it has to be elite celestial dragons. Celestial dragons aren't all trash, either. Otherwise, where did the 5 elders come from? Dulin nodded slightly. Such celestial dragons, it seems that there really is one. However, before that, you have to pay back to the government first. Dulin thought so. Then he raised his hand and rubbed his forehead again. Forget it, let's rest for an hour first. Dizzy. Anyway, the final weapon should not be able to return to Mariajoy in a short time. At this time, the sea outside the Sphinx is surrounded by a patch of sky. It's gone. The balding 5 elders stared dumbfounded at the screen in front of them. What happened? A group of people disappeared without a trace in an instant. M was also taken aback. The shelling was already ready to go, but at this time the target had disappeared. It would be pointless to shoot. It does have some kind of space system ability. The bald 5 elders was pale, but I never thought he could escape with so many people at once. What does that mean? This means that as long as you can't kill that guy in the first place, then it is absolutely impossible to catch him, let alone kill him. There is only one way to kill him. Still the same strategy as before. Find his lair, and then use the final weapon to kill him in one blow without his knowledge. There is only this way, otherwise it is impossible to kill him. This duel was too unfair. Five elders even felt aggrieved and wanted to curse. With his terrifying fighting power, coupled with his incomparably weird ability to move through space, this guy's horror is simply indescribable. He alone is the worst enemy of the world government. Master I am. The bald five elders asked cautiously. Has the great Lord I am ever encountered such a failure in these long years? The behind-the-scenes king of world government is a little silent at this time. It is extremely rare for him to go out in person, but now he has not returned without success. Snort. Finally, Lord I am said coldly, keep looking. There is nothing else to say. There is only one thing left to do now. That is to quickly find that guy. Then, kill him. This world does not allow such a terrible guy to exist. Yes. Five elders immediately nodded respectfully. But of course he was quite bitter in his heart. Such searches have been going on for a long time, but have never been successful. The ghost knows where the lair of that group is. This world is so huge, it is too difficult to find a result if you search aimlessly. Then, the rest of the island. Five elders' tentative way. Now on this Sphinx Island, there are still three largest pirate groups in New World. Although it failed to take down the most difficult guys, it seems to be good if these three pirate groups can be eliminated. However, five elders had a second thought. Most of the elites of the world government are also on this island. In order to eliminate the group of people just now, it is natural to abandon them. But now, is it really worthwhile to sacrifice all of them for these pirate groups? It doesn't matter what those guys are. However, Im's reaction was quite flat, go back. Of course five elders didn't dare to say anything. Also, to Lord I am, what are those pirates? Then go back. It's just that this time it's a 5.1 return for nothing. Five elders sighed softly. On the island, the three pirate groups were reborn after the catastrophe. What the hell was that just now? Kaido was ashamed at this moment. Is it the attack launched by that B******************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** people were also affected. Charlotte Linlin retorted loudly, with a trace of horror remaining on her face. I'm afraid that's the joy hidden by the world government. These two guys are really scary. It's not something I can afford to provoke, whether it's the sun god or the world government, it's too easy to destroy myself. Whitebeard stood up and looked around. He didn't speak. All I saw was devastation. Everything has been completely destroyed, even the king's capital in the distance has now become a wasteland. Whitebeard fell silent. His hometown was destroyed. Chapter 227 God's Punishment. If I don't come back, will everything be different? Whitebeard thought to himself as he looked around at the ruins around him. If you don't come back, then this island will fall into the hands of the Illuminati. But judging from their usual style of conduct, not only will Sphinx not encounter any troubles, but on the contrary, they will obtain the peace and tranquility they dream of. On the contrary, now, I have become the bait to lure the sun god out, and now this country has been completely wiped out. Although Whitebeard's heart can't be said to be very sad, it is natural that he will feel the circumference because of it. This is the place where he was born and grew up, his hometown, and the only place in his life that can be called his destination. In the first few decades of his life, he has been sending his treasures back to this country in order to be able to have more ties in this world. But now this bond has been completely erased. What is left of this country is nothing but scorched earth and devastation. Whitebeard let out a long sigh. At this moment, there were even tears on his face that would almost never appear on his face. Originally, I wanted the children to bury themselves here after death, but where can 25 belong now? But now is not the time to think about these things. There was another look of sadness on Whitebeard's face. It's better to quickly find all the living children, and then leave the island. Too many people have sacrificed today, at least the children who are still alive must leave safely. He left without saying a word. Seeing his action, Kaido and Charlotte Linlin also started to gather to find his subordinates and family members after thinking about it for a while. Although that group has disappeared, the lackeys under the command of the world government are still on this island at this moment. With such a huge loss now, he has no intention of continuing to fight at all, even Kaido is like this. But in the battle just now, there are not many people who can survive. The Marines should also thank Dulin, because they didn't suffer any casualties from the Ring of Flames released by Dulin. But their casualties were enough before that. What happened just now? Kuzan looked blank. It's not just the pirates who were at a loss, they also don't understand what's going on here. The sudden explosion caught everyone off guard. On the other hand, the heroes Garp and Black Arm Zephyr had solemn expressions and said nothing. Although it is completely unknown who launched the attack at the end. But it's pretty much a guess. First of all, it must not be the pirates. Judging from the behavior of the pirates, if they had mastered such power, they would have already begun to expand their power unscrupulously. Secondly, it is absolutely impossible to be the god of the sun. Otherwise, there is no need for him to resist the attack just now. Again, it should be difficult to find a fourth-party irrelevant person who has mastered that kind of force star because of the sea. Even the battle that happened here today should be a secret. So, after several rounds of elimination, the real black hand behind the scenes has surfaced. Garp and Zephyr exchanged glances. They found that each other's eyes were quite complicated. I don't have any scruples at all, I want to clean up everything on this island, including them. In short, 1. Garp sighed, let's go back first. Of course, this time the battle was a complete defeat. Even Marshal Marine and the Supreme Commander of the CPO were killed instantly and they didn't even touch each other's hairs. In the end, even suffered. What a day. The hero Garp sighed in his heart. The world government's expeditionary force, now there are only 5 Marines and a few CPO cadres who barely survived. But in the end, I have to go back. It should be said that fortunately, the pirates and the Marines are heading in completely different directions, and they probably have no chance to meet again. In this way, the sudden battle of the Sphinx came to an end. Not many people in the world even know that the world's top war actually took place on this small island that no one cares about, and the most powerful forces in the world are almost gathered here. But more exciting things will continue to be staged next. Mariajoy. The city at the top of the Red Line has been almost completely rebuilt after being almost completely destroyed by Dulin. After all, this is the center of the world government no matter how you say it. With the world government gathering a lot of manpower and material resources, it is quite easy to rebuild it. It's just that the city looks a little empty today. Have you transferred early? Floating above the city, Dulin sighed, I've already made preparations for my revenge, it's really troublesome and meticulous. It is of course quite easy to come here, after all, a lot of flying thunder gods' imprints have been left here before. Under the perception of knowledge, the city below seems very empty at this time, especially the gathering place of celestial dragons, which is even more silent. Dulin muttered, and raised the flame sword in his hand high. 277. Even the celestial dragons have been transferred, and more key figures must have long since left the city, so there is nothing to stay. Let it burn. Although Dulin doesn't have many pointers to Marin, he has already kept in mind the known sea charts in this world. Starting from Mariajoy, check the position and fly in the approximate direction. Anyway, looking down from a high altitude, it is quite easy to find an island in the vast sea. Dulin looked down at the raging fire below, then, let's go to Naval Headquarters next. Naval Headquarters is quite close to Mariajoy. After all, the meaning of its existence is to protect Mariajoy as one of the 2 portals. However, I didn't vent my anger at all. It didn't take long for Dulin to discover an island suspected to be full of marlins on the sea. However, it's all here. It is not difficult to find it. Isn't it very close to here? After being attacked once, the world government is of course not ignorant, and has already made a response in advance. Or hurry to the next target point. The familiar scene reappeared in Mariajoy, and the flames flowed wantonly in the city, consuming everything. Without hesitation, Dulin flapped his wings and left the city immediately. The flames surged down like a tide. Chapter 228 Destroy Marin Fantastic. Frightened 5 elders. Dulin lowered the height slowly. Confirmed. It is true that there are many marlins here. After all, in this sea area called Paradise, there should not be another island with the majestic word justice written on the towering headquarters building. But, Dulin lowered the height slightly, and observation hockey has swept the island inside and out. It's really despicable enough, even the people on this island can't be transferred. Also, the people in Mariajoy have been transferred, and it is certainly not difficult to transfer the Marines on Marin Fanduo. It's just that Dulin is a little unhappy. Isn't this unfair at all? You are only allowed to attack me, but I am not allowed to retaliate. Forget it, let Enel and the others go and destroy all of Marine's G-series bases. Since it is impossible to achieve equal revenge in quality, it can only work hard in quantity. The world government has dispatched the ultimate weapon to kill him, so of course he has to pay back. Dulin felt that he was really great. People who value fairness so much are probably rare even if they look at the entire sea. However, that must be done after destroying Marin Fanduo first. The raging flame demon sword was pulled out from the void by him again, and the flames had already risen up at this instant. Then, he was discovered. The Marines staying on the island at this time have already been warned by their superiors, and they have always maintained extraordinary vigilance, and Dulin has no intention of hiding their whereabouts at all. So it is very reasonable and logical for him to be discovered by the Marines below. Enemy attack! Enemy attack! The island below is on, and the alarm has been sounded directly. The sharp sirens directly made the Marines on the entire island agitated. The news that made them even more restless was, it's that guy. That guy is coming. It's not that Dulin is Voldemort, and he can't be called by his name directly. The main reason is that those who know Dulin's name in this world are his original subordinates. Even the knights who joined the gods later only called him a god, and they didn't even know what his real name was, let alone these guys on the sea. Fortunately, such an unknown name immediately let the Marines on the island know who the enemy is. After all, everything was explained in detail when they were asked to stay behind. As a result, various emotions began to emerge in the hearts of the Marines, and they showed completely different expressions on their faces. Bravery, fear, struggle, panic, despair. They know what it means for this guy to be here. But it's useless to say anything now. Whether it is to meet bravely, or to escape with fear, the next thing is inevitable. Dulin raised the Leviathan in his hand, and then went down a bit. The flame demon sword is like a shooting star. The next instant it went straight through the naval headquarters building. From the top all the way to the bottom, castration is still unabated, directly into the depths of the island. Then, flames began to erupt. The moment the flames started to spout, the surrounding soil and rocks were melted directly, and then the flames continued upward. While melting everything along the way, it accelerated and shot upwards under enormous pressure. Up, speed up all the way. Then, the naval headquarters volcano erupted. No, it shouldn't be a volcano, there is no such thing as a volcano. Below the headquarters building, a pillar of fire soared into the sky, directly engulfing the entire building. Even this is just the beginning, the pillar of fire is still spreading in all directions, trying to engulf the entire island. Come on, I'm not afraid of you. A marine roared and raised the weapon in his hand. No, don't come here. There was a collapsed marine holding his head and running towards the beach to escape. It's over. There was also a marine who couldn't move his body, slumped on the ground, staring blankly at the flames approaching him. In short, no matter what the reaction is, the constant thing is that the flame will quickly swallow everything after all. This great fortress of justice, the base camp of Marine, was completely engulfed in flames in the blink of an eye. Dulin nodded slightly in satisfaction. That's a little bit of a relief. In the next second, he had already returned to the island of gods. But the storm he brought, that's only just beginning to blow. Somewhere along the red line, in a temporary gathering place. The 4-5 elders who didn't go to the new world together are sighing in a temporary shelter in the center. I didn't expect Lord IM to dispatch it himself, but it still failed. What's the matter with that guy's ability? Hashtag the ability to manipulate flames and incarnate flames, all kinds of strange moves similar to magic, plus the ability to move a large number of people in space in an instant. Every time an ability was mentioned, the faces of the 5 elders became gloomy. How could he attack Mariajoy immediately after the Battle of the Sphinx? Silence. Didn't he escape from the Sphinx just over an hour ago? How did he attack Mariajoy again so soon? After all, this also means that when he wants to take the initiative to take action, no one can do anything to him. After drawing this guess, the 5 elders fell silent. It is not wrong, Qian Zhaozhao, to move away Mariajoy and many related personnel of Marin in advance to guard against that guy's attack. This guy is too exaggerated, so who can deal with him? A horrified expression appeared on 5 elders' face for an instant. How could such a terrible guy appear in this world? Could it be that that guy's ability to move in space allows him to cross more than half of the world in an hour? Even Master IM failed. But immediately, 10 CPOs in white robes hurriedly knocked on their door. But that was based on the fact that the guy didn't go to the Sphinx, but after discovering that his subordinates were wiped out there, he became angry and launched an attack. The 5 elders were dumbfounded. Lord 5 elders, latest news, Mariajoy has been attacked. Now the whole city has turned into a sea of flames. With such terrifying mobility, how could he be able to kill him in a frontal battle? Compared with this guess, the news that Marlin Fandua was completely wiped out shortly afterwards, and even the news that it had sunk to the bottom of the sea seemed less important. What? How could it be so fast? Chapter 229 Hide and Seek. Tinder Network. Mariajoy. Or should I say above the ruins of Mariajoy. The huge monster like a cloud is quietly suspended in the sky at this moment. On the edge of this huge monster, the existence covered in a black robe quietly looked down at the scene below. There is already a white ground below. Behind him, the 5 elders are worried. My lord, Mariajoy and Marin Fanduo have all suffered devastating blows, and these 2 news are unstoppable. By that time, the trust of the franchise countries in us may drop significantly. When these 2 news spread to the world, the prestige of the world government may soon face another round of huge blows. This is the second time Mariajoy has faced such destruction. And this time even Marin Fanduo was destroyed together. Facing such a rampant enemy, the world government has no good solution at all, and can only swallow their anger. Even the members of the new government should feel chilling, right? Confederate countries are willing to pay huge amounts of money to join the world government because they want the protection of the government. And now the world government can't even protect itself, so why should it protect them? I am afraid that this matter may even cause many franchise countries to defect. After all, the conditions of the Illuminati are not much worse than that of the world government. Although they like to interfere in the internal affairs of their countries, they will even punish disobedient guys without hesitation. However, they don't care much about things like wealth and power, all they want is their belief in the sun god. On the basis of piety, you don't even need to pay the heavenly gold at all, you only need to pay the normal taxes on time, and you can get the protection of the Illuminati and the Sun Knights. And the power of this group of people has been fully revealed in the battles again and again. It is a power that even their world government can't do anything about. In contrast to the 2, it is only natural that the franchise countries will make changes. The kings and nobles may still favor the government, but what about the people at the bottom, who really need to afford the natural gold? So of course the 5 elders are worried. The foundation of world government ruling the world for 800 years lies in Lord IM, the ultimate weapon under their feet. But the world government is not a castle in the sky, and the many franchise countries are the basis of their existence. But now, this foundation has begun to disintegrate visible to the naked eye. That kind of thing doesn't matter. Lord IM's response to this matter was quite flat, it's never their turn to speak in this world. Now the only one who has the ability to decide the direction of the world, besides me, is that guy. Of course, the 5 elders are very clear that there will be no second witch besides the god of the sun for the guy in this big man's mouth. Only that man has the power to deter the entire world by himself, even their world government has to be shocked by it. Also, what is the use of the reaction of the Confederate States? In the face of the power mastered by Master IM, they are just a group of ants that can be wiped out with a snap of a finger. As long as that guy can be solved smoothly, then everything will not be a problem. In the end, all the troubles are still only that guy, only him and his Illuminati and Knights. As long as that guy is found out and dealt with, then the world will return to the peace of the past. Doesn't he like playing hide and seek with us? I am suddenly sneered, then have fun with them. Mariajoy doesn't have to fix it anymore and move the whole city over it. This of course refers to the ultimate weapon. Its scale is so large that it is not even under an ordinary island, and it is of course more than enough to carry a city. However, that guy has the ability to move in space. In order to prevent information from leaking and revealing his location, only the most core guys are allowed to come. The 5 elders froze for a moment. Is it just CFDA to abandon the Mariajoy that has existed for 800 years? What will the world think of them? They can't even hold their own center, and they can only be forced to give up. Is the world government not worthy of their trust? It was this thought that immediately appeared in the minds of the 5 elders. But of course, they had only one answer. 5 people knelt behind I Am, and they nodded respectfully, wishing. Since Lord I Am wants to play hide and seek, of course, he can only play with him. Then let's try to see who will reveal the flaw first. So thought the 5 elders. But now this matter is still a bit too far away. The first thing that should be considered now is how to realize remote office. If only the core members are allowed to enter, it means that the middle and senior cadres can only be abandoned, so they can only be controlled by remote control. It is not an easy task to ensure that the government does not lose control under such circumstances. In short, the Wandering Mariajoy project began. Much of the destruction of Mariajoy and Marin has not yet been revealed. Dulin has returned to the Island of Gods in the first time to eliminate Marin. Although it is planned to wipe out all the G-series branches of Marine to repay the grudge that was attacked in Sphinx before. But Dulin is going to send his god knights to do this matter. He himself is too lazy to run around the sea for such a small goal. But before that, he had one more thing to do. What happened in Sphinx just now reminded him. But once the subordinates sent out encounter unexpected situations, it is very likely that he will not get the news. A two-way communication channel needs to be created. By the time he realized something was wrong, it was already the time for the dead subordinates to return. But of course, Dulin did not intend to teach Kido to his subordinates. But now it is only necessary to engrave the warlock who is sky-high and empty on everyone's fire minister through domination. Even if the Tinder network is built, it can be realized through Tien Incongluo. Although there is a phone bug, communication has become very convenient, and he even mastered the move of Tien Incongluo, which can realize long-distance communication. All he has to do is to engrave the Tien Incongluo in the fire seed, and when his subordinates want to use it, they can activate it actively. This is also very simple. At least this part is included in the Kido skill card that Dulin got from Aizen, engraving Kido. Because Tien Incongluo must ask him to take the initiative, and the phone bug often has no time to take it out. Then it would be too late. Is it enough to let the subordinates also be able to use Tien Incongluo through the fire seed? This is not impossible. Like Flying Thunder God technique, Kido is a move that can be learned. Then, Kido who have been completely localized and can be released through physical strength also have the ability for others to learn to use. It would be good to engrave the formula in advance. Chapter 230 Shocking the World. Tien Incongluo is actually a very troublesome spell. It's not troublesome to engrave it in the tinder and then teach the subordinates to use it. The real trouble is that after using Tien Incongluo, you can confirm the location information of all fires and initiate communication with them. Dulin does not want to see such a thing. So he restricted the spells engraved in the fire seed. Ordinary priests and sun knights cannot confirm the location of other people through this technique, let alone communicate with other people. The only people the priests could contact were Mahad, and the only people the sun knights could contact were Mahad and Fram. Even they still couldn't confirm any information about these two directly superiors through spells. And of course Mahadfram was able to communicate with all their subordinates through spells. This is an authority that other god knights do not have. The other god knights naturally also have the authority to actively contact the priests and the sun knights, but this authority has a distance limit. Regarding the communication authority between the knights of the gods, Dulin is even more restrained. They can't confirm each other's information, they only know who they have contacted and who is contacting them, and they have the authority to refuse the other party's contact. However, a very important authority they have is that they can directly communicate with Dulin. This is an authority that other priests and sun knights cannot have at all. Finally, there is Dulin. All his authority, of course, will not set any restrictions. He can even hear everyone's calls if he wants to. Well, the hierarchy is strict, and the top and bottom are orderly. It is very simple to make such a design, but it is much more troublesome to engrave the spell. It took Dulin 2 days to finally complete several spell designs of different levels. The next thing is simple. Through the ability to dominate, it directly left an imprint on everyone's fire in an instant. Finally, leave an introduction, so that the holders of the tinder can actively activate this ability. By the way, Dulin also shouted at them, introducing this ability to them a little bit. So the next second, God, hey, can you hear me? This is Kisara. Kisara's cheerful voice immediately sounded in Dulin's mind. Even if I don't need to deliberately stimulate this ability, I can hear clearly. Dulin raised his hand and rubbed Kisara's little head lying on his lap. At this time, he was watching a movie in his residence. Yes, there are movies in this world too. After all, video cameras have already been invented, not to mention the super convenient and easy to use gadgets like video phone bugs. Even in this world, there are still quite a few blockbuster visual effects films that don't even need to do special effects at all, just shoot them in real. Kisara was watching with him. Hey, did you really hear that? The white dragon girl widened her eyes excitedly, and said inexplicably in surprise, "It's amazing, it's worthy of being a god." After Kasara, other Sun Knights immediately sent greetings to Dulin through the Tinder network. Dulin asked them to have a good experience of this ability, but if there is nothing urgent, don't contact him through this ability. Very annoying. He even set up a permission for himself not to connect immediately when he receives a contact, and he chooses whether to connect or not. In short, the genocide network was formed in this way. Whether it is a knight of God or a priest, the Sun Knights are all excited about this. God once again performed a miracle. On the second day, Dulin will come to Mahad and Fram to ask them how they feel about using it. After all, the two of them are directly connected to the priests and the Sun Knights, and in terms of the number of times they use it, no one should be more than them. Very amazing. Fram immediately knelt down on one knee respectfully, his tone full of fanaticism. As expected of the ability bestowed by you, God. With this ability, even the Sun Knights far away in the New World can get in touch with them immediately. That's right. Mahad, who was always calm, was also slightly excited at this time. In this way, there will never be an accident again, but we will not get the news in time. Just getting these abilities, the guys under him are a little too excited. Frame said a little funny again, continuously sent me contact messages, telling their excitement, and at the same time, many people asked me to help contact other people. It made me dizzy for a while. It's the same on my side. Asking for flowers. Mahad said, however, I have told them not to use this ability at will, unless there is really an emergency. The phone bug is still used under normal circumstances. Firstly, this is a disguise, and secondly, the consumption of that ability is indeed not small. The consumption is actually not considered even the communication across half the world. Ordinary Sun Knights can bear it. After all, the positioning ability that consumes the most has been directly solved by Tinder. Their consumption is mainly in communication. But being able to bear it doesn't mean you can use it at will. For ordinary priests and Sun Knights, the consumption of this ability is actually not small. Very good. Dulin is very satisfied with Mahad's handling. As expected of the number one admiral under his command, everything is handled in an orderly manner. Then, let's get started. The so-called start of action, of course, refers to the continuation of the revenge plan that was not completed before. At the moment of being attacked, there will always be people who happen to be present, and they spread the news as soon as possible. These two news spread like crazy in the sea, and almost all the newspapers published them immediately. Everyone in Dahai was the first to get the news, and Shin Chunin couldn't help but have such doubts. Ships sailing in the nearby waters rushed over to confirm the situation at the first time. Who did this thing? Even the most isolated islands are first visited by news birds. After all, many merchant ships want to go to and from Paradise and New World through Mariajoy. The pillar of fire that soared from the island that day was clearly visible even in the archipelago as far away as Sabayati. The world lost its voice in an instant. That is the center of the world government and the headquarters of the Marine. Besides that guy, will there be a second choice? Then the question was answered right away. At the same time, many things that happened in Mariajoy and Marin have also spread across the sea. It was like this that we ushered in destruction on the same day. As for the variety of Marin, it is even simpler. That's Mariajoy and Marin variety. Then all they could see was the Marine base camp sunk in flames.